Oscar felt like a fish in water in the hall, chatting with all kinds of wealthy people with a smile on his face, as if this night belonged to him. He had just been adopted as his son by Rong Guiao himself. The Rong family's recommendation was like a ray of light from heaven, illuminating all the possibilities for his future. However, just as he was enjoying all this, a whisper suddenly came from the surroundings. William, Chin's biological son? These words were like a sharp sword, piercing Oscar's heart. He turned around suddenly and saw William standing at the other end of the crowd. His calm, yet majestic gaze made him feel suffocated instantly. William, the insignificant orphan, whom he had long since ignored, unexpectedly became the focus of everyone's attention, and his own glory seemed to be instantly overshadowed by William's brilliance. At that moment, Oscar's heart sank suddenly, and he was immediately overwhelmed by an unprecedented sense of crisis. Hi everyone, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you like this story, please share and let me know in the comment section. I will update the next part. Chapter 192, How About I Adopt You as My Adopted Son? Oscar saw Rong Guiao. He immediately showed an expression of surprise and joy on his face. He walked forward a few steps and shouted with a smile, "Grandpa Rong, why are you here too?" Rong Guiao laughed loudly, with a doting look in his eyes. "I personally handed you your invitation letter. Why am I not here?" At this moment, David felt his mind go blank and his body trembled unconsciously. His son Oscar was actually invited by Rong Guiao himself? This is really a big deal. And judging from Rong Guiao's attitude towards his son, he seems to like him quite a lot. "Grandpa Rong, how is your health recently?" Oscar asked respectfully. Rong Guiao smiled and waved his hand. "Thanks to you, I am still alive and well." After saying that, he suddenly turned around and looked around. "By the way, are you here alone?" "I came with my dad," Oscar said, and seemed to realize that he hadn't seen his father yet, and looked around. Finally, he saw David in the crowd and immediately waved excitedly. "Dad, I know who gave me the invitation." Hearing this, David came back to his senses, walked forward nervously, and bowed slightly. Mr. Rong." Rong Guiao smiled and reached out his hand, patting David on the shoulder. "You are Chin's father?" Yes. David was so nervous that he could hardly speak, and his palms were covered with cold sweat. If he had not been past his prime, he would probably feel a little weak at this time. "Haha, what a good father." Rong Guiao patted his shoulder and turned his gaze to Oscar. "Your son is a good boy with great potential. I can stand here today thanks to him." David was stunned and looked at his son in disbelief. Rong Guiao's words made him feel like he was dreaming. "Mr. Rong, what you said? What's the matter? Boy Chun, haven't you mentioned me to your father?" Rong Guiao asked with a smile. Oscar scratched his head in embarrassment. "I thought it was just a small matter. I didn't expect it to be so important, so I didn't tell them." "Haha, you are so kind and modest. You are so cute." Rong Guiao smiled, with a little more appreciation in his eyes. "How about this? Why don't you let me adopt you as my adopted son?" Hearing this, the people around were immediately in an uproar. Mr. Rong wants to adopt him as his adopted son? How is this possible? The kid from the Chun family can actually get in touch with Rong Guiao. No way. Could it be that he saved Elder Rong's life? If that's the case, then the Rong family will have to support him in the future. It seems that the Chun family is really going to turn things around. If we are not mistaken this time, if we build a good relationship with David, we may be able to get in touch with the Rong family. Suddenly, everyone started talking, and the expressions on their faces changed from surprise to envy and regret, especially those who had just ignored David. They now finally realized that the relationship between David and the Rong family was far from as simple as they had imagined. The one who regretted the most was Mr. Fan. He never expected that David, who had just been nodding and bowing in front of him, would become friends with Rong Guiao in the blink of an eye. Adopted son? Oscar had never expected Rong Guiao to make such a request and was so shocked that he was speechless. Rong Guiao laughed loudly, but his eyes became gentle. "What? You don't want to? I'm serious. Then I will." Oscar looked at his father with a helpless look on his face. David patted his back and urged, "Oscar, it is a great honor that Grandpa Rong likes you. Hurry up and call him Godfather." Oscar was nervous. He still mustered up his courage and shouted with a smile, "Godfather." "Ha, my good son." Rong Guiao laughed and handed over a golden brocade box, which contained a priceless watch. When the people on the side saw the watch, They gasped and wondered whether Rong Wenyao was planning to treat this young man as his successor. Everyone, I officially announced that from today on, I, Rong Wenyao, have a new son, Oscar. Rong Wenyao announced with a smile on his face. David was almost floating, his face full of happiness and pride. The powerful people around him also congratulated him, and even a few quick-moving family members had already started trying to get in touch with David. Although Oscar remained calm on the outside, he was extremely excited in his heart. He felt that no matter what, William was still a high school student who had not yet reached adulthood. Thinking of this, Oscar looked at William with a somewhat mocking look in his eyes. William came. It gave a country bumpkin like him a chance to see how he could stand out and shine at a banquet of this level. And he, a lowly creature, was destined to be trampled under his feet. Chapter 193. What is William's origin? Mr. Zhou and Mr. Han are here? Come on, let me introduce my new adopted son to you. Rong Wenyao smiled and walked towards the two old men, holding Oscar's shoulder. Oscar, come, say hello to Uncle Zhou and Uncle Han. He urged gently, his eyes full of pampering. Hello, Uncle Zhou, hello, Uncle Han. Oscar bowed his head respectfully, his voice sweet and sweet, as if he had just walked into the Rong family. Mr. Zhou smiled slightly, his eyes indifferent. Isn't this the adopted son of the Chun family? The atmosphere on the scene froze instantly, and everyone's heart was moved. As soon as Mr. Zhou said this, it aroused everyone's association before. The Zhou family and the Qin family had quietly severed their cooperative relationship with the Qin family. At this moment, everyone understood that although Rong Wenyao recognized Oscar as his adopted son, Zhou Lao obviously did not intend to let the Qin family off. He would rather not give Rong Lao face. Perhaps he had already made plans in his mind. David, before seeing this situation, couldn't help but become alert and took a few steps back. David clenched his fists tightly, and his heart was burning with anger. Oscar's face was filled with chills, and he cursed in his heart. This damn old man didn't even give Rong Wenyao face. He was about to bite his teeth. Rong Wenyao has already recognized me as his adopted son. How could Mr. Zhou be so sarcastic and provocative? Rong Wenyao was calm and composed, still smiling. Yes, it is the adopted son of the Chun family. This child has a good character. When I went out for a walk before, my old illness relapsed and I happened to be without anyone around. Not only did the child help me take the medicine, he also stayed with me until the ambulance arrived. Afterwards, he didn't take any reward and left quietly, not even taking the incident to heart. How come such a good person is not a member of my Rong family? But now he is my adopted son, so he is also a member of the Rong family. As soon as these words came out, everyone suddenly realized. It turned out that Rong Wenyao liked Oscar so much for a reason. William sneered in his heart. This might not be true. With Oscar's personality, even his adoptive mother was too lazy to take care of him, let alone an old man. How could Rong go out without anyone and let Oscar have the opportunity to save him? As for the so-called rescue incident, William bet that it was all absolutely fictitious. Mr. Rong obviously had other motives for praising Oscar so much. William was dazzled by this apparent hypocrisy, but he was secretly wondering in his heart. Elder Rong was so determined for Xianyu's plan. The power behind this should not be underestimated. Mr. Zhou was not very interested in this. Since they were willing to adopt Oscar as their adopted son, it was the Rong family's business. As a former soldier, he disapproved of such underworld tactics and prepared to turn around and leave. However, Rong Wenyao suddenly spoke again. Mr. Zhou, the young man behind him, looks a little unfamiliar. I wonder which family he is from. He asked with a smile, seeming to be interested in William. Mr. Zhou was slightly startled and subconsciously turned his head to look at William. William raised his eyebrows slightly, his eyes were calm, and he had no intention of speaking. William is my teacher. Mr. Zhou hesitated for a moment and chose to respond briefly. Before he finished speaking, Mr. Han also said, he is also my teacher. Then he looked at William with a smile. William, do you think so? William smiled and nodded, looking calm and unhurried. The atmosphere in the venue suddenly became subtle. Oh my God, what's going on? Elder Zhou and Elder Han are actually this young man's students. This young man is really amazing. He was just adopted as an adopted son by Elder Rong, and in the blink of an eye, he has become the teacher of Elder Zhou and Elder Han. The young people nowadays are really more and more surprising. With such status, these two old guys can respect him so much. It seems that he is really not simple. Oscar's face suddenly turned gloomy, and a huge rage burned in his heart. This damn boy actually showed off like this on purpose. He was adopted as Rong Wenyao's son, and before he could feel proud for a few seconds, this kid said in front of everyone that he was the teacher of Mr. Zhou and Mr. Han. Isn't this implying that he is the real big shot? Just as he was secretly resentful, a hearty laugh suddenly reached his ears. Ha ha ha! Lao Zhou, Lao Han, you two old fellows are immoral. You actually secretly worshipped William as your master and left me behind. Old Chun led the Chun family and walked directly to William with a somewhat friendly smile. William, you can't be partial to one and ignore the other. You have accepted both Old Zhou and Old Han as your students, so I have to call you William from now on. William turned his head and glanced at Old Chun, but smiled slightly in his heart. He glanced at Oscar's face that had turned ashen, and he couldn't help but feel an inexplicable sense of pleasure in his heart. This guy is so stupid. He actually thought he could enjoy unlimited glory by becoming the adopted son of Rong family, but in the end, everything became so ridiculous. He smiled slightly, turned around, and nodded to Mr. Chun. William? It's just a name. Mr. Chun can do whatever he likes. William. Chun Xian, Chun Shuang, and other members of the Chun family also greeted William respectfully. William nodded slightly and looked at Chun Shuang gently. Very good. He smiled and whispered. Everyone in the Chun family knew that William's very good was not just a greeting, but an evaluation of Chun Shuang's physical recovery. After a period of recuperation, Chun Shuang's body has recovered a lot, and his previous weak state has improved greatly. Seeing this, Mother Chun walked forward excitedly. William, all this is thanks to you. Her eyes were wet with gratitude, and she was almost speechless. However, before she could finish her words, she was interrupted by Chun Xian. Mom, there are so many people watching. Pay attention to your manners. Father Chun also reacted immediately, realizing that William had told them not to easily reveal his identity as a master, and hurriedly whispered, Shuanger, take Mom to rest. Don't let her get too excited. Chun Shuang hurriedly helped Chun's mother leave. At the same time, the surrounding discussions gradually increased. Old Chun, Old Zhou, and Old Han, three elders who enjoy extremely high reputations in the capital and even in a wider area, actually respect William so much, which makes everyone even more curious about the true identity of this young man. David walked forward and held out his hand to William. To be respected by these old guys, William must have some extraordinary qualities. I roam like young people with abilities the most. I wonder which family William belongs to. William raised his eyebrows slightly, glanced at Rong Wenyao's broad palm, then stretched out his hand and shook it with him. Orphan William. David's face darkened. This rebellious son keeps saying the word orphan every day. Is he afraid that he won't be able to curse him to death? Chapter 194. Failed to intimidate others, but was defeated by the general. An orphan, yet he has such ability? William, you really impress me. Rong Wenyao had a smile on his face, but his eyes were full of deep meaning. I don't deserve it, William replied calmly, trying to pull his hand back. However, Rong Wenyao deliberately did not let go, but increased the strength in his hand. This old guy probably wants to test himself. William sneered in his heart, his eyes narrowed slightly. Rong Wenyao once used his fists to build a business empire. Although he is old, he is still extraordinary and strong. He thought to himself, today I will try how capable this young man is and see if he will admit defeat. William smiled and suddenly increased his strength, showing no weakness. Rong Wenyao only felt a great force coming from William's hand, and his bones seemed to be about to break. A trace of surprise flashed in his eyes, and he couldn't believe his judgment. This young man is so strong? He tried not to make a sound, but he was secretly anxious in his heart. How strong are you? Rong Wenyao couldn't help but have this question in his mind. He thought he had been through many battles and had seen all kinds of situations, but today he ran into someone stronger than him. Rong Sanhui stood aside, frowning slightly. He had noticed that something was wrong with his father and was ready to stop him. However, before he could speak, William suddenly increased his strength, and a crisp click sounded. Ah! Rong Wenyao screamed in pain, and finally couldn't help but let go of William's hand. Let go! Let go! Rong Sanhui shouted, not expecting the situation to be so out of control. William smiled slightly and let go of Rong Wenyao's hand. Mr. Rong, are you okay? I am young and hot-tempered, and I don't know the severity of the situation. I saw you keep increasing your strength just now, and I thought you were joking. Who knew that I was a little too strong and hurt you? You. Rong Sanhui almost bit his teeth, but his father's wrist was in great pain at the moment, and he was unable to fight back, so he could only hold back his anger. Mr. Rong, don't be angry. We are all old. It's just a joke. William smiled again and said in a relaxed tone, but I still have to remind you that strength is not something that everyone has. The people around were all surprised when they saw this scene. Rong Wenyao is a legendary figure. William, a young man, dared to challenge him so directly? The atmosphere at this time seemed to suddenly become tense. William didn't seem to see the surprise of these people. He waved his hand. Mr. Rong, I have a good temper and don't get angry often. It's just a matter of strength. Let's compete again next time we have a chance. Rong Wenyao's face turned livid, gnashing his teeth, but he didn't dare to get angry. Forget it, it's okay. He endured the severe pain, forced a smile, and waved his hand. Xiao Jiang, you are really impressive. I wanted to play a joke on you, but I almost became a laughing stock. Huh? William smiled slightly, with a hint of playfulness in his eyes. Rong Sanhui wanted to say something, but was stopped by Rong Wenyao's eyes. William looked at him with a barely perceptible smile on his lips. Ha, Elder Rong, you've worked so hard. Then, he turned and left, with astonished eyes behind him. Rong Wenyao breathed a sigh of relief, but was unwilling to accept it. You're awesome. I'll let you win today. However, he had a little fear in his heart. This young man was definitely not simple. When William walked into the crowd, the people around him looked at him with a little awe and surprise. Where on earth did this kid come from? He dared to confront Elder Rong head-on. Can't you see? I've heard of the name William. He was once the adopted son of the Chun family. What? The adopted son of the Chun family? It seems that the Chun family missed a big opportunity. If he was still there, the Chun family would not be what it is now. David stood in the crowd, narrowed his eyes, and his heart was full of regret. He knew clearly that if William had stayed in the Chun family, the situation today would never be like this. His biological son, who had been away from home for so long, had become such a person. The Chun family was wrong. He muttered to himself, his heart full of complicated emotions. Chapter 195, David regrets everything. David stood in the corner of the hall, looking at his biological son, who was surrounded by a group of wealthy men and held in his hands with empty eyes. He was filled with remorse and almost lost his mind with anger. He clenched his fists as if he didn't see it, and his heart was like a turmoil, and it was difficult to calm down. What on earth is going on? He couldn't help but ask himself in a low voice, his face turning purple. He knew that if he continued to stare, his emotions would be exposed sooner or later. But his heart was firmly attracted to the uninvited guest. So he simply hid in the bathroom as if escaping. After locking himself in the cubicle, David took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. But after a few minutes, he still couldn't get rid of the heat and unwillingness in his body. When he was about to walk out, he suddenly heard a chuckle and footsteps outside. Have you heard? The young man named William is actually David's biological son. A voice said jokingly and frivolously, with an undisguised curiosity in the tone. David paused in front of the bathroom door. His heart skipped a beat and he felt dizzy. Then all the sounds began to reach his ears clearly. What? His biological son? Is that true? Didn't William say he was an orphan? Another voice asked in a low voice, with some disbelief. Yes, I've heard about this too. Look at him and David. They don't even make eye contact. They are complete strangers. How could they be his biological son? An even more confused voice interrupted. Hey, are you kidding? Have you forgotten what my daughter told me? The Chun family's little affair has caused quite a stir on the internet. I even went out of my way to eat some of the melons a few times. A familiar tone came with a slightly sly smile. Really? Then I have to take a look. Then, the sound of a cell phone turning on rang out. Ha! These people in the Chun family really have something wrong with their brains. Their biological son has been missing for so many years, and they don't love or care for him even after he was found. Instead, they stand up for an adopted son from outside. Not only did they not change the child's surname, they also kicked the child out of the house. It's hilarious. Another person couldn't help laughing. That's right. I was shocked when I saw it. Who in our family doesn't value blood ties? If we can't give birth to children at home, we can find a few from outside. At least the bloodline should be preserved. Look at the Chin family. They found their bloodline, but they don't cherish it at all. It's unbelievable. Another person shook his head and sighed. Yes, especially the third sister in their family, a star in the entertainment industry, who was doing well, but suddenly she retired. The fourth sister's game company also went bankrupt. The Chun family is in a mess now. A sneer was heard with a hint of gloating. Oh, maybe this is William's revenge on them. Another voice sounded a little curious, as if guessing something. Who knows? But if I were him, I would never let it go if he treated me like this. Let them taste the feeling of being abandoned by their own son. Someone said righteously. And now that adopted son has the support of the Rong family, doesn't he? He will probably turn things around soon. Someone said with disdain in his tone. That's hard to say. The Rong family only adopted a son. After all, there is no blood relationship. If we really want to compare who can inherit the family business, we still have to look at the character and ability. The adopted son of the Chun family is full of scheming, and it's obvious that he is not a good person. There was a bit of contempt in his voice. Yes, like David, he will probably suffer at the hands of this adopted son in a few years. Another person said with some concern. However, it is a bit strange that the Chun family is doing this. How can parents be so cruel to their own son? Someone suddenly said in a thoughtful tone, as if trying to solve the mystery. What do you mean? What are you talking about? The other person was stunned. I mean, even though David isn't very capable, he has been working in the business world for many years. How could he know nothing? Have you ever thought about it? That adopted son could really be David's biological son? The question raised by that person suddenly made the air freeze for a moment. Wow, this is interesting. Another person exclaimed in a low voice, as if suddenly realizing some possibility. The conversation outside gradually faded away, but David still stood there, his face changing unpredictably. At that moment, his heart seemed to be torn apart. Everyone was discussing and even speculating about the secret behind him, but the only thing he could do was to deeply suppress his emotions. He slowly closed his eyes, feeling the silence in the air. The white hair and wrinkles after William left home were like deep scars, reminding him that he was old and time was no longer forgiving. Taking a deep breath, he forced himself to relax, stood up straight, and walked out of the bathroom again. There is no medicine for regret in this world. Things have come to this point. There is no other choice. Right now, the only family that can help the Chun family is the Rong family. Dad, what's wrong with you? Are you feeling unwell? Why did you take so long? Oscar asked with a worried look on his face after seeing David. David smiled and said, It's okay, don't worry. I just took a work call inside. As he said this, he looked around. Where's your godfather? Oscar glanced in William's direction and pretended to be careful and said, Just now, my brother seemed to have shaken hands with Godfather too hard and hurt Godfather's hand. So Godfather went to deal with it. David glanced at Oscar, then looked at William, his eyes full of disgust. This evil creature is deliberately trying to go against me. I worked hard all night and finally found an opportunity to help the company make a comeback, but he delayed it again. If I had known he would become like this, I should have strangled him to death when he was born. When Oscar heard this, he was overjoyed. Oscar, David turned around and patted Oscar on the shoulder. This time, thanks to you accidentally saving your adoptive father's life, this brings hope to the Chun family. If the Rong family can really help our family, you will be a great hero. Don't worry, Dad will never treat you unfairly. Dad, you don't have to tell me this. I am a member of the Chun family. It is natural for me to contribute to the family. David was very satisfied with Oscar's answer and smiled with satisfaction. Chapter 196, When did William learn to identify antiques? Dad, do you really not need to bandage your hand? In a lounge on the second floor, Rong Wenyao's personal doctor took a look at the injury on his hand, initially determined that it was a bone fracture, and gave him painkillers. Rong Sanhui was still a little worried, fearing that he would delay treatment and cause his injuries to worsen. But what Rong Wenyao was thinking was that the dinner downstairs was still going on. The people attending the banquet today are all well-known figures in the capital. If he had a bandage wrapped around his hand, wouldn't he be laughed at? After all, everyone knew that he was the one who started the trouble. No need, it's just a minor injury. I've been injured more seriously than this countless times before, but I'm still fine, isn't it? Rong Wenyao said calmly, holding a cigar in his mouth. Rong Sanhui thought, how old were you then, and how old are you now? But he never dared to say this, so he took out his anger on William, who was going against the flow. That brat named William is so ignorant of his own limitations. Not only did he humiliate you in public, he even dared to hurt you. Dad, don't worry, I will never let him go. Rong Wenyao looked at Rong Sanhui, a hint of disappointment flashing in his eyes. What do you want to do? I warn you, don't be too smart. Rong Sanhui was stunned by the shouting. Dad, what do you mean? Don't you plan to investigate today's incident and let that kid go? Rong Wenyao was silent for a moment, then said, It's not that I want to let him go, but I can't act rashly. You know my strength. That guy was able to break my bones without changing his expression, which shows that he is not an ordinary young man. Not to mention that the old men from the Zhou, Han, and Qin families think so highly of him. When things are out of the ordinary, there must be something wrong. You're already 30 years old. Don't you understand such a simple truth? Rong Sanhui was most afraid that Rong Wenyao would speak to him in such a disappointed tone, making him seem like a fool. Well, Dad, what do you think we should do next? He asked cautiously. Rong Wenyao thought about it and then sighed. It seems I still have to ask the master. As he spoke, he picked up the phone on the table and called Shinu. What's the matter? Xianyu's tone was cold, without a trace of respect. But Rong Wenyao didn't care at all. Instead, he asked cautiously, Master, something happened at the dinner. I want to ask, what is the origin of the biological son of the Chun family? William? What happened to him? Rong Wenyao told Xianyu everything that had happened before. Xianyu said impatiently, Idiot, you don't even know where he came from, but you go and provoke him. Aren't you afraid of death? Rong Wenyao's face darkened when he heard this, but he still said respectfully, I'm sorry, Master. I know I was wrong. Okay, don't mess with that guy anymore. Just focus on completing the tasks I assigned to you. Yes, Master. After hanging up the phone, Rong Wenyao was so angry that he slammed the phone on the coffee table. Rong Sanhui also heard the words his father had just been scolded and said indignantly, Dad, our Rong family has now climbed to such a high level, and you have no health problems. Why do you still listen to Xianyu so obediently? Shut up, Rong Wenyao scolded. From now on, no matter where you are, as long as I know that you have been disrespectful to Master Xuanyu in any way, don't blame me for not recognizing you as your son. He was really worried that this stupid son would offend Xianyu one day and die without knowing how. When Rong Sanhui saw that he was angry, he immediately lowered his head and dared not speak anymore. Do you understand? Rong Wenyao asked again. Listen, I understand. Rong Wenyao threw away the cigar in his hand, stood up and left. Rong Sanhui hurriedly followed. Rong Wenyao returned to the first floor and saw that there were more people surrounding William than before, and all of them were smiling. He found an acquaintance to ask questions. What are those people doing around William? He asked. Mr. Rong, they seem to be gathering together to study antiques. The person being questioned was the son of one of Rong Wenyao's partners. He was still relatively young and knew how important Rong Wenyao was to his business, so his attitude was very humble. Antique. Yes, those people have been talking to William about antiques. I went over to listen to them before. What he said was well-founded, so those people around him recognized him very much. Rong Wenyao nodded, then let the young man go. As far as he knew, those old men with the surname Zhou really liked collecting antiques. So, these people respect William so much and even directly worship him as their master. Is it because they want to play with antiques with him? But didn't William grow up in a remote and backward mountainous area? How could a child who grew up in such an environment know so much about antiques, which are such a difficult thing to get into? Thinking of this, he became more curious about William and prepared to observe him carefully. Soon, the highlight of the dinner, the charity auction, began. One by one, the donated antiques were put on the auction table. Rong Wenyao auctioned off a few items casually and did not forget to give Oscar an item worth tens of millions. After that, he concentrated on observing William and found that this boy really had a deep understanding of the antique business. The group of old guys headed by Old Man Zhou would always ask for his opinion before filming anything. Among them are many collectors in the circle. Moreover, these people believed in his words and called him William one by one. Only then did he believe that William really had profound attainments in the antique business. I feel even more that William is definitely not a simple person. He immediately sent a message to his most trusted assistant, asking him to reinvestigate William. Oscar was so angry when he saw a group of legendary big guys calling William William all the time. Originally, with Rong Wenyao's support, he should have been the absolute focus of the dinner, but now all the attention has been snatched away by William. Damn it! When did this bastard William learn how to identify antiques? No, he doesn't believe it. How could a country bumpkin have such ability? Thinking of this, he was extremely certain that William must be talking nonsense to attract other people's attention. Dad, Have you ever taught William how to identify antiques? David beside him softly. David glanced at William and sneered. How is that possible? I guess that evil creature must have read some explanations about antiques somewhere, so he's just showing off. When Oscar heard this, he immediately felt that he had found the truth of the matter, and then he put on a worried look. That brother is too bold. The people here are all well-known figures. If they find out that what he said is not true, they will not let him go so easily. Will it implicate you, Dad? Chapter 197, Isn't he afraid of being hunted down by the Rong family? After the auction, the dinner was coming to an end. People gathered in groups of 3 or 5 to discuss the development of the company and mutual cooperation in the coming year. Rong Wenyao took the initiative to propose to establish a cooperative relationship with the Chun family and made an appointment to meet the next day to discuss the details of the cooperation. Seeing this, several companies that rely on the Rong group for their livelihood also expressed their willingness to cooperate with David. David welcomes everyone who comes. Oscar was somewhat proud of himself for bringing David back to life. But his eyes always unconsciously fell on William, who was surrounded by all the big guys like a star. You bastard, you must be trying to steal my limelight on purpose. I must expose your lies and let the world see your true colors. While David was discussing cooperation with someone, he walked up to Rong Wenyao. Godfather, I want to ask you to do me a favor. After the banquet, a group of bigwigs surrounded William and said goodbye reluctantly. William, thanks to you today. Otherwise, I would have donated the Song Dynasty items in my hand as Qing Dynasty items. Yes, William, if it weren't for you, I would have almost fallen for it and been fooled. William, there will be a press conference in High City next month. Are you interested in going to see it together? William dealt with the situation in an organized and reasonable manner, and when he was really unable to cope, Mr. Zhou would help him cover up. At this time, a young man came over. William! Everyone looked over in the direction of the voice. Zhou Sinan was worried that William didn't know this person, so he reminded him softly. He's the son of the Tang family, a rich second generation who is idle and idle. His father is following Rong Wenyao. William had a guess in his mind after hearing this, and looked towards Oscar, and sure enough, he saw him looking at him viciously. Is there something? He looked at Mr. Tang. Xiao Tang always smiled nonchalantly. William, I just heard a lot of knowledge about antiques from you, which really benefited me a lot. I want to ask you, who is your master? William chuckled. Did Rong Wenyao ask you to come here? Let me guess. Are you going to question what I said next? Are they all made up? Am I lying? The smile on Mr. Tang's face froze. He didn't expect that as soon as he opened his mouth, the boy guessed his purpose. However, if he fails to complete the task his father has given him with repeated warnings, his card will probably be suspended tonight. So, he forced a smile and said, Why would I think so, William? I just heard that William grew up in a poor mountainous area and has only been in the capital for 3 years. So I am curious about where William learned such a powerful skill. When everyone heard this, a hint of anger appeared on their faces. Isn't it possible that William could learn the skill of antique identification in such a short time? Mr. Tang, aren't you still questioning our William? William didn't tell you about any antiques, so stop meddling in other people's business. Mr. Zhou's expression was also very ugly at this moment, and the murderous spirit that he had cultivated on the battlefield was released without reservation. Is this how your Tang family educates you? I'm going to ask your father right now how he educates you. Mr. Tang suddenly felt panicked, and his legs were shaking. Mr. Zhou, As soon as he opened his mouth, Mr. Zhou shouted towards the crowd, Tang Daming. Mr. Tang's father hurried over and pretended to be clueless. Mr. Zhou, what happened? Mr. Zhou said with a dark face. What's wrong with your son? He is the teacher of me, Zhou. Do you think he can say anything about it? Although Tang Daming has Rong Wenyao's support, it does not mean that he is willing to offend Zhou Lao, the big Buddha, and he complained in his heart. What is this? It's not like he came here to provoke. However, he did not dare to offend Rong Wenyao, so he could only bow and apologize to Mr. Zhou and William, then kicked his son hard a few times and took him away. William looked at Oscar meaningfully, then looked at Rong Wenyao with a scornful smile on his lips. He said in a provocative tone, Mr. Rong, next time if you want to help your adopted son deal with me, don't bother yourself with that. Just come to me directly. I, William, am always here to accompany you. After saying that, he got into the car without even looking at Rong Wenyao. Everyone was stunned by William's words and couldn't believe what they heard. How dare this kid William do this? It's true that a newborn calf is not afraid of a tiger. Isn't he afraid of being hunted down by the Rong family? Now that William is gone, Rong Wenyao can't smooth things over. Oscar with a dark face, then got in the car and left. Seeing Oscar's extremely ugly expression, David thought of what William said before he left, and his disgust for this adopted son increased a little more. Oscar felt a sinking feeling in his heart when he saw him staring at him. He originally thought that if he didn't show up, he could let Rong Wenyao find someone to expose William's true identity. Even if he failed, he wouldn't be implicated. But he never expected that William could still bring this matter to him, and even relied on the support of those stupid old men to dare to provoke Rong Wenyao in public. Now, maybe Rong Wenyao is blamed on him. I don't know what kind of magic potion this bastard William has fed to these stupid old guys. They couldn't see such an obvious loophole right in front of them. You deserve to be deceived. But the most urgent thing now is not to let David think that he really caused trouble for William. I have finally managed to ease the relationship with David, and I cannot let it fall through just because of William's words. Thinking of this, he quickly walked up to David. Dad, did my brother misunderstand something? Why did he say that my stepfather and I were going to deal with him? David smiled gently. Don't worry about that evil boy. He is now a mad dog and bites everyone he sees. Let's go back. Oscar heaved a sigh of relief after hearing this. The two returned to the Chun family mansion. At this time, Dora was still waiting for them in the living room with a facial mask on. When Dora saw her baby son coming back, she immediately took off the mask and threw it into the trash can, then walked quickly towards Oscar. My son is back. How are you? Are you tired? Are you hungry? Mommy asked someone to warm up some soup for you in the kitchen. Would you like to have a bowl? Have a drink. I'm hungry too. That kind of banquet is not a place to eat. I see my son didn't eat anything all night. The family of three walked towards the restaurant. Soon, David and Oscar drank the hot chicken soup. How was it? Did you gain anything tonight? Dora asked. David laughed out loud. Of course, wife. You don't know how promising our son is. Mr. Rong likes him very much and has adopted him as his adopted son. He also wants to cooperate with our company. What? Adopted son? Dora was also shocked. Son, what's going on? Why does Mr. Rong like you so much? Oscar scratched his head, looking embarrassed. Mom, I don't know either. I just saved an old man last time. I didn't expect that old man was Mr. Rong. Next, Oscar recounted the false relationship between himself and Rong Wenyao. The more Dora listened, the happier she felt. I knew that my son is a lucky star. Will our family be able to overcome this difficulty completely this time? David expectantly. David nodded. Of course, with Mr. Rong's relationship, our family can not only get through this difficult time, but even move up a level. Ha 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 ha. Dora laughed so hard that her eyes almost disappeared. Husband, my son, is the #1 contributor to our family getting through this difficult time. You must not treat him badly. That's for sure. Okay, I'll go back to my study to think about the future cooperation plan. I have to have a meeting with Rong's people tomorrow, so I'll probably be busy until very late tonight. After David finished the last mouthful of soup in the bowl, he got up and went upstairs. Chapter 198, David Makes a Will. As soon as he entered the study, he locked the door and his face instantly became completely gloomy. A pair of eyes full of cruelty. God knows how disgusted he felt when he saw the loving mother and son downstairs. But he has no choice now. The Chun family is in danger, and the only person who can help Chun is Oscar, the godfather who suddenly appeared out of nowhere. He must seize this opportunity to help the Chun family make a comeback or even move to a higher level. So now he can only tolerate Oscar, this little beast, for a while longer. He walked with heavy steps to the desk and sat down. For some reason, his mind kept thinking about William being surrounded by those big guys tonight. That's his son, biological son. But now, they have become complete strangers. No, the relationship between them is worse than that between strangers. In William's eyes, he is an enemy. How ridiculous. They are obviously father and son who are connected by blood, but now they have come to this point. He suddenly remembered the time when William was just born and wanted to see William at that time. He remembered that there was a USB flash drive containing many videos and photos of William's childhood. In the 2 years before William went missing, he often watched them alone. But today, for some reason, he couldn't remember where he put the USB drive. So he could only look all over the study, and finally found the USB flash drive in a corner at the bottom of the safe. He plugged the USB drive into the computer and started looking at the photos and videos. When Dora gave birth to William, she was already an elderly mother, so William was very thin when he was born. Later, under the careful care of the whole family, He became strong and grew into a cute, chubby little boy. David watched William grow up in the video. He was giggling because of a toy. He was held by himself, by Dora, and by his daughters. It was the first time he rolled over, the first time he stood up, the first time he walked, the first time he called Daddy. Unconsciously, his vision became a little blurry. The words that those people in the bathroom said about him tonight were like a spell, constantly circling in his mind. The people in the Chun family, are they okay? In a family like ours, which family doesn't value blood ties the most? That couple doesn't care about their biological son and daughter, and only cares about their adopted son. That child is pitiful. The Chun family is getting their retribution now. Could it be that William is taking revenge on them? How could a normal person treat his biological son with his first wife like this? What do you think? Could his adopted son be his illegitimate child? Every word of mockery was like a knife cutting back and forth in his heart. He recalled how timid he looked at home before he found William, and then thought of how high-spirited he looked now. He finally dared to face the mistake that he had always been unwilling to admit. He is really an unqualified father. But why did it turn out like this? He doesn't understand. Obviously, he was also looking forward to William's birth back then. Obviously, he was ecstatic when William was born, and he held this hard-earned son in his hands for the past 2 years. It was obvious that he was in great pain after he got lost. William was found 3 years ago. But why did he become like that later? Why did he push his own son to this point? He really couldn't figure it out. Why is he so stupid? He didn't dare to watch William's video again, for fear that he would collapse, and suddenly pulled out the USB flash drive. But unexpectedly, his hand slipped, and the USB flash drive fell to the ground and landed in the desk. He knelt on the ground and reached out to pick up the USB drive. But it seemed like the USB flash drive was playing a joke on him. He had clearly touched it, but he had no way of getting it back. After trying several times, he ended up letting the USB drive get further and further away from him. He suddenly felt that this USB drive was like his son, moving further and further away from him and would never come back. My emotions suddenly collapsed. He could no longer control himself. He put his fist to his lips, bit his index finger, and cried silently. Son, it's Dad who's sorry for you. Dad shouldn't have failed to protect you and let you be bullied like this at home. It's Daddy's fault. It's all Daddy's fault. David had forgotten how many years it had been since he had a breakdown like this. This time he vented his anger severely. By the next morning, he had calmed down and walked out the door as usual. However, he did not go to the company, but came to the law firm of his lawyer friend Shinu, whom he had known for many years. How come Mr. Chun has time to come to my place? Shinu poured him a cup of tea and asked with a smile. David smiled bitterly. I came to you to make a will. Shinu was startled when he heard this, and then asked with a worried look on his face. What's wrong? Is there something wrong with your body? David shook his head. No, I just want to make a will first. Shinu still had some doubts in his heart until David took out the physical examination report he had done not long ago, and then he felt relieved. Since you were so healthy, why do you need to make a will? Asked Shinu. I want to make it up to my son. Your son? Oscar? When David heard this, he felt like his heart was punched hard. Look, even his good friend would only think of Oscar when he heard about his son. This shows how much of a failure he is as a father. No, I only have one son, William. When I die, I want to leave all my property to him. Chapter 199 Miracle Doctor. William doesn't know yet that David finally has a change of heart and wants to leave him a huge sum of money. But even if he knew, he wouldn't be moved at all. The suffering he had endured could not be erased with money. Besides, with what David had, William had no intention of keeping it until the day he died. At this time, William was busy treating Qin Shuang. In addition to being a mysterious master, William is also a mysterious doctor. However, when he was helping Qin Shuang recuperate, he had only been telling them in the capacity of a master how to help Qin Shuang recover the vitality and energy she should have at her age as soon as possible. The way a mysterious doctor treats illnesses is somewhat different from that of an ordinary doctor. His way of practicing medicine is a bit like Chinese medicine, but it seems more complicated than Chinese medicine. Just like now, he was using acupuncture to treat Qin Shuang's health, but his silver needles were emitting a faint golden light. This made Qingfu look at William with even more admiration. After a moment, William raised his hand and waved it. The silver needle that had pierced Qin Shuang's body turned into strands of golden light in front of everyone's eyes and went directly into Qin Shuang's body. Everyone was looking at what was happening in front of them with shock in their eyes. Even Chung Fu was so excited that he almost shouted awesome. Shuang, how are you? Are you feeling okay? Mother Qin hurriedly asked Qin Shuang, who was still lying on the bed. Qin Shuang didn't rush to answer, but felt it for a while, then said with surprise, Mom, I'm much better. I feel stronger now, and I'm not cold or tired anymore. Upon hearing this, Qin's mother was so moved that she burst into tears, and then she knelt down to thank William. Thank you. Thank you, William, for curing Shuang. William hurriedly supported him, then winked at Qin Xian. Qin Xian knew William's temper and quickly helped his mother up. Mom, you are old. Please don't do this. William doesn't like it. William smiled faintly and said, Yes, Mrs. Qin, you don't have to thank me too much. After all, I did collect the consultation fee this time. After saying that, he didn't stay any longer and took Ching Fu away from the Qin family. As soon as the two got in the car, Ching Fu couldn't suppress his inner excitement. Master, you are so amazing. The silver needle can actually disappear directly. Today is really an eye-opener. I never knew before that Master Xian can also cure diseases. By the way, Master, I have a few stones in my kidneys. Can you help me remove them using mystical techniques? William looked at Chung Fu speechlessly, then said coldly, Jiang Shun, after you send me home, remember to take Chung Fu to the hospital and have his kidney stones treated. Okay, William. Jiang Shun said gloatingly. Chung Fu hurriedly said, No. That's not necessary, Master. I was just joking. Just a joke. William ignored him and turned to look out the window, lost in thought. He had not originally intended to reveal the identity of Xian Yi too early. After all, there are so many things like birth, aging, sickness, and death. If his identity as a mysterious doctor were to get out, he would be extremely busy in the future. Besides, he can't save everyone. As for that kind of extremely evil person, even if saving him would not affect him, he was too lazy to do anything, and it would waste the merits he had accumulated with great difficulty. In fact, if Qin Shuang takes good care of his body, he will be able to recover in a few years. But she has already lost so many years. If she waits a few more years, her best years will be completely gone. William again, hoping that William could help Qin Shuang think of a solution. William was a little hesitant at first, but the Qin family gave too much. A full 300 million. The merit he earned by donating half of it is much greater than the merit he spent. But he didn't do it just for money. The most important reason is that he really needs the identity of a miracle doctor now. After returning last night, he learned about the Rong family's rise to wealth. It was learned that Rong Guiao had been on the verge of death several times more than a decade ago. There were even rumors that he had done too many evil things and was being punished for it by getting cancer. But every time he managed to escape danger. Moreover, in recent years, my body has become stronger and stronger. Although William couldn't see Rong Guiao's face, he checked it when he shook hands with Rong Guiao last night. This person has traces of mysticism, and there was a sense of death on his body. People who have the aura of death on them are either people who are about to die or people who have already passed away. But Rong Guiao is still alive and well. Thinking of Xinyu, the black mystic master, William understood why Rong Guiao wanted to help Oscar. But why did Xinyu help Oscar like this? William initially suspected that Xinyu was Oscar's biological father, but he quickly overturned this speculation. If Xuanyu and Oscar are really father and son, then Xuanyu can just recognize Oscar as his own. Why would he keep him in the Chun family? There are so many mysteries surrounding Xinyu. Given William's character, he would never allow him to hide in the dark forever. Not to mention, he has made it clear that he wants to help Oscar. Therefore, he must find out who Xinyu is. Why did he go to such great lengths to help Oscar? Originally, William thought that dealing with the Chun family was just dealing with a group of ordinary people. Now, as his plan continues to advance, more and more people are emerging from the water. Things became increasingly complicated. He began to realize that perhaps his death in his previous life was not that simple. His disappearance, the torture and injustice of the Chun family, and even the last change in the mental hospital may have been caused by a pair of hands. What he had to do now was to pull out those hands. As for the Chun family, whether they treated him like that intentionally or unintentionally, none of it matters. They did it. He bore the pain. He won't forgive. From the beginning to the end, his goal was the same, to send the Chun family to hell. Now at most there is one more. If there really is a pair of hands behind all this, then he will find them and cut them off. After returning home, William saw Zhao Yongyan sitting on the sofa, and he and Tina were each holding a mobile phone, playing happily. Every time William saw Zhao Yongnian, he would think of the time when he fought alongside him in his previous life. At that time, there was no mysterious master and no hatred. All they have are two young people trying their best to prove themselves and fighting for their dreams. Why are you here today? William walked over and sat down next to Zhao Yongnian. Wait a moment. After Zhao Yongnian said this, he controlled the game character on his phone to use a big move. And then he heard Tina angrily said, "Fuck, I died again." Zhao Yongnian chuckled. "Just accept your fate. You can't beat me." Tina glared at Zhao Yongnian and then left angrily. "Come on, let's talk in your study." Zhao Yongnian stood up with a happy look on his face and pulled William upstairs. Chapter 200. Chun Lang's game hired a spokesperson. When they arrived at the study, Zhao Yongnian said happily without waiting for William to ask, "Boss Zhang, we can start the internal test of our game." William raised his eyebrows. "Really? Let me see." Zhao Yongnian handed over his cell phone. William looked at the finished game, which was even more perfect than the first version they made in their previous life, and laughed from the bottom of his heart. "Then let's get started. Is there enough money in the company's account? If not, please let me know at any time." "It's within my reach." Zhao Yongnian chuckled. "It's great to have a boss like Mr. Jiang. He just gives me money and doesn't care about anything else. This year's best boss of the year must be you." "Okay, stop being so rude," William said helplessly. "For something like an internal test, there's no need for you to come here in person. Tell me, what else do you want to say?" Mr. Jiang still understands me. "I came here this time because I actually have something else I want to say." "What?" "A friend of mine told me that the first game of the new game company founded by Chun Lang is also preparing for internal testing." "So what?" "I heard that they also found the otaku goddess Guiao to be the spokesperson, so I was thinking, how about we also find a spokesperson? Or just snatch Guiao away?" William raised his eyebrows slightly. "So, you think the games we make are not as good as theirs?" "Of course not. The game we make is the best," Zhao Yongnian said excitedly. But soon he calmed down. "But in the current market environment, marketing is also very important. Our two games are being tested at about the same time. If theirs is very successful, it will take us a while to catch up. I'm afraid it will take a lot of effort." William thought about it, then said, "No need to ask for an endorsement. Don't worry, we won't lose the game. I have confidence." Zhao Yongnian felt a little disappointed after hearing this. He heard that when a brand hires a spokesperson, the brand can have dinner with the spokesperson. He hasn't had dinner with those stars yet, so he doesn't know what it feels like. "I thought this was an opportunity, but I didn't expect the boss to not let me." Thinking of this, he sighed silently. After leaving William's house, he felt more and more unwilling and sent a voice message to William. "William, how about you take a look at Guiao's photos and number of fans before making a decision?" "William, I know you're busy, so I won't bother you to search for it. I'll just send it to you directly." Soon, William received a high-definition photo of a beautiful woman. William then understood why Zhao Yongnian wanted to find a spokesperson so much. This girl is obviously Zhao Yongnian's dream goddess. It is no exaggeration to say that this kid's world is illuminated by the headlight of this otaku goddess. So, William rejected him mercilessly and replied, "Brother, you don't deserve it." Zhao Yongnian responded immediately, "Fuck, let's break up." William smiled and clicked on Guiao's photo again. "Chun Lang, do you still think that a mere spokesperson can save you?" As he spoke, he stood up, walked to the display screen on the wall, and lit up the photo of Chun laying with a partially dimmed part. "The door to hell has been opened. Chun Lang, this time you just go in directly." At the same time, Chun family mansion. Oscar excitedly. "Brother, you are so awesome. You can actually help me find a sexy goddess like Guiao to be the spokesperson for my game. When fourth sister succeeds in her game, she will definitely give you a big gift." "Ha ha ha. I seem to see it all now. My game has successfully made it to the top of the download list." Chun Lang became more and more excited as she spoke, and finally, she gave Oscar a big kiss on the cheek. Oscar smiled obediently. "Fourth sister, we are a family. We should support each other. What's more, I feel guilty for not being able to help you during the game development stage. How can I still accept your gift?" Chun Lang had approached Oscar many times before, wanting him to participate in the development process of her game. But Oscar can't even play games well. How can he develop games? He had no choice but to find an excuse that he wanted to focus on his studies to avoid it. Of course, Chun Lang would not let him go just like that, and she tried to persuade him for a long time. Oscar was so annoyed that he finally had to move Dora out. Under Dora's strong suppression, Chun Lang stopped persuading Oscar to join her game development team. Chun Lang was naturally a little dissatisfied. Her game is so important that if she succeeds, it will bring her countless fortunes. Unexpectedly, her beloved brother, whom she loved since childhood, was unwilling to help her with such a simple matter. Oscar also guessed what Chun Lang was thinking from her attitude towards him during those days. In order to make up for her, he took the initiative to help her find Guiao as her spokesperson, and its free endorsement. This made Chun Lang very happy. The game hasn't even been developed yet, but it's already received such a huge amount of publicity. She immediately forgot Oscar's rejection and was deeply moved. At critical moments, I still have to rely on my good brother. Dora's face was almost blooming with smiles as she looked at the deep affection between the brother and sister. However, she did not forget to remind him. Ying, let me tell you, your brother is honest and cares about you. So he helps you without asking for anything in return, but you can't really prepare nothing for your brother. Otherwise, even if your brother wants to help you next time, I won't agree. I know, Mom. I love my brother so much. How could I let him suffer? Chun Lang said with a smile on her face. She was now filled with the thought that Oscar had done her a great favor, and it was only right that she thanked him. Dora is teaching her how to be a good person. He didn't take Dora's words as a sign that she was partial to Oscar. Dora's favoritism towards Oscar during her growth over the years. Seeing that Chun Lang's problem was solved perfectly, Oscar began to plan to win over the other sisters. He doesn't count on Chun Wanning, Chun Yun, and Fiona for the time being. The hatred these three people had for him was too strong to be resolved in a short period of time. His next target was the middle sister, Daisy. Chapter 2:01 A Big Drama. It was almost midnight when Daisy finished her last operation. She came out of the operating room and returned to the office, too tired to even talk. When she was about to leave, the patient's family came to her and thanked her profusely. It is truly great to say that she has a kind heart and a great sense of compassion. Daisy suddenly felt that no matter how hard and tiring it was worth it. When I came out of the hospital, my steps were brisk. There is a small wonton shop next to the hospital entrance, and the wontons taste very good. Every time she got off work late, she would go to that shop to eat a bowl of soup. After eating the wontons, she prepared to go back to the hospital to drive. Unexpectedly, after walking for a while, a few drunkards came towards us, reeking of alcohol. Daisy unconsciously covered her mouth and nose, frowned slightly, and deliberately changed direction, walking sideways to the innermost side of the sidewalk. Although Imperial Capital is a very safe city, these people are all drunk at this moment and have completely lost their rationality. In this situation, it is better to be careful. But who would have thought that these drunkards would still target her? Beautiful lady, come and play with us? The man who was speaking was the biggest of the drunks, with a large tattoo on his neck. Daisy was startled and didn't dare to say anything. She lowered her head and walked forward quickly, just wanting to leave here as soon as possible. However, she didn't expect that these people with obscene looks on their faces would block her way and completely surround her. She knew it was useless to reason with these people, so she wanted to shout for help. After all, there's a large hospital nearby, and even though it is very late now, there's still many people on the road. But what she never expected was that these people would be so bold as to rush over to cover her mouth as soon as she opened her mouth and drag her into the alley. The alley was not like the roadside. It was pitch black, and there wasn't even a street light. Soon, Daisy was thrown to the ground. What do you want to do? She was so frightened that her face turned pale, and she kept backing away, her voice becoming tearful. The big guy pulled out a folding knife, pointed it at her, and grinned. Bitch, I'm warning you, if you dare to yell at me again, I'll stab you to death. No, please don't, Daisy cried. I'm a doctor. I'm a good person. I've saved a lot of people. Please don't hurt me. That's perfect. I like playing with nice women. Please let me go, please. I'm begging you to let me go, okay? I have money. I can give you a lot of money. I'll give you 1 million. And you can go find someone else, okay? I beg you. Daisy was crying as she spoke, her cheeks already covered with tears. But these drunks still had no intention of letting her go. The big guy stepped forward and began to violently tear off Daisy's clothes. Daisy could no longer control her fear and screamed, "Help! Help!" The big guy slapped her in frustration. Daisy suddenly felt dizzy and her mouth was full of the taste of blood. You didn't hear what I said to you, right? If you dare to scream again, I'll cut your face into pieces. The big guy raised the folding knife viciously. Daisy didn't dare to make a sound this time. Her heart was filled with despair, and she could only shake her head in pain. With a swish sound, the shirt underneath her down jacket was torn to pieces, and she closed her eyes in despair. Second sister, just then, a familiar voice suddenly appeared in my ears. Daisy opened her eyes and glanced at the boy standing in the darkness against the light. Oscar's brother? A sudden gleam of hope appeared in her eyes. Brother, save me. Oscar looked around, picked up a stick beside him, and rushed over. Let go of my second sister. The big guy sneered and let go of Daisy. Kid, get out of here if you know what's best for you, or I'll stab you too. Oscar rushed over with a stick in hand, his face full of anger. Seeing this, the three strong men also took action. Daisy took the opportunity to put on her clothes quickly, stepped aside, and watched Oscar fighting with the drunks, covering her mouth and crying uncontrollably. She watched the stick in Oscar's hand being knocked out, and then he was knocked to the ground. My heart was filled with fear, and I wanted to leave, but my legs were so weak from the extreme fear that I couldn't move. The big guy wanted to grab Daisy again, but Oscar actually got up and hugged his legs. Second sister, run! Oscar shouted at the top of his lungs. Daisy tried to leave after hearing this, holding onto the wall. Who knew that the next second, the big guy stabbed Oscar with a knife. She was so frightened that her legs went weak, and she fell down again. Brother, how could you really stab someone? Yes, this can kill people, the big guy's younger brother said with a look of horror. The big guy also looked annoyed. I didn't expect it. I didn't mean to kill him. What should I do now? What else can we do? Just run. As soon as he finished speaking, the three drunks quickly ran deeper into the alley. Oscar forced himself to raise his head and glanced at Daisy. Second sister, are you okay? Daisy got up and stumbled over to Oscar. Brother, you are injured. Oscar forced a smile. It's okay, second sister. I'm glad you're okay. After saying that, Oscar fainted. Chun Yin was very anxious and rushed to check Oscar's wound. Fortunately, the knife didn't stab deep and it wasn't in a fatal position. Only then did she remember to call the hospital. Soon, someone came and sent Oscar to the hospital. After a series of examinations, Oscar was diagnosed with only minor skin injuries. The knife wound on his abdomen was the most serious, but it only required a few stitches. When Oscar woke up, Dora was still scolding Daisy. The curse was very ugly. David sat aside. Although he felt a little uncomfortable, he held back and did not speak up for his daughter. Daisy didn't say anything back. She just lowered her head and cried silently. Mom! Oscar suddenly shouted. When everyone heard his voice, they were very excited and gathered around him. Dora lay down next to Oscar and burst into tears. Son, you finally woke up. I scared you to death. Why are you so stupid? How dare you fight those hooligans alone? If anything happens to you, how will I live? Yes, son, you were too reckless this time. If you encounter such a thing in the future, you must call the police immediately, understand? Oscar smiled and said, I'm sorry, Mom and Dad. I made you worry. I won't do that again. I saw my second sister being bullied, and I got anxious all of a sudden. Daisy burst into tears after hearing this. Brother, I'm sorry. It's all because of you that I made you like this. Chapter 202. Kids nowadays are so scary. Oscar shook his head. Second sister, please don't be like this. I'm very happy that I can help you. As long as I can protect you, it doesn't matter how badly I get hurt. Hearing this, Daisy was even more moved. David waited for a while, and when he saw that Dora and Daisy had calmed down, he asked, Son, why are you here so late? Are you here to see your second sister? Soon as the voice fell, Oscar's expression dimmed for a moment. My second sister has been ignoring me lately. I know she is busy with work, so I dare not disturb her. But I don't know why. I couldn't sleep tonight, and I miss my second sister so much. So, I thought about coming to pick her up from get off work and have a good talk with her. But it's okay. I came here today. Otherwise, I don't even want to think about how today would turn out. After hearing what Oscar said, Daisy felt full of guilt and rushed over to hug Oscar. Brother, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I shouldn't be angry with you. David sighed and patted Oscar's head. My dear son, today is really thanks to you. It's okay, Dad. Oscar smiled obediently. I'm very happy to be able to save my second sister. The family cared about Oscar for a while, and Oscar insisted that they all go home. However, Daisy insisted on taking care of him in the hospital, and after he pretended to refuse several times, he finally agreed. He really needs to strengthen the relationship between them. Otherwise, wouldn't all his big efforts have been in vain? After Daisy sent David and his wife downstairs, Dora still remembered that it was she who caused her precious son to be injured. She didn't want to say a word to her and got into the car directly. Daisy felt very aggrieved, but she didn't know what to say. David felt heartbroken when he saw his daughter like this. Ming Ming, are you okay? When Daisy heard this and looked at her father's caring eyes, her heart ached. Dad, don't you blame me? After all, it's because of me that my brother got hurt like this. David felt a pain in his heart when he heard this. How partial was he to Oscar in the past? So much, so that after something like this happened to his biological daughter, the first thing she worried about was that he would blame her because of Oscar? He touched her head. How could Daddy blame you? Daddy feels sorry for you. You ran into this kind of thing. When you go upstairs later, remember to find your colleagues and give you a thorough checkup. If you feel uncomfortable, you must tell Daddy, understand? Daisy nodded. I understand, Dad. David looked at her with pity and gave her a few more instructions before getting in the car and leaving. On the way, Dora wiped her tears and said, My son is so stupid. He dared to rush into such a thing alone. Fortunately, he was only slightly injured this time. If he was seriously injured, I really wanted to strangle Daisy, the little bitch. Why are you posing outside instead of going home in the middle of the night? You're causing. Shut up. David couldn't bear to listen any longer and scolded. Ming Ming is your daughter too. It's not her fault that she encountered this kind of thing. Is this what you should say as a mother? Dora was stunned by the yelling, and then she said angrily, Why are you yelling at me? Am I wrong? My son was injured so badly, and I can't say a word to Daisy? David, don't forget how much effort my son has made for you and your daughter. It's not an exaggeration to say that he is the savior of your Chun family. David didn't want to argue with him. This woman was completely crazy. He even suspected that Oscar had cast a spell on him. So he sighed softly. I don't mean to yell at you, but we have already lost 3 daughters. Do you want to lose more? You need to work on your temper. Dora felt a little uncomfortable after hearing this. She certainly didn't want to lose any more daughters. She also counts on her daughters to support her in her old age. I am also angry. David hummed and stopped talking. He turned his head to look out the window, his eyes instantly filled with anger. He didn't believe that Oscar would appear here at this time by coincidence. I don't even believe that Oscar would be so kind as to risk his life to save Daisy. It's easy to imagine that this matter was probably arranged by him with the purpose of winning over Daisy. At this moment, David was filled with regret. Why had he been so stupid to bring such a vicious person home and carefully train him for so many years? Oscar, once my plan is completed, I will never let you go, David thought to himself. The next day, William's house. Did those people really take action? William placed the tablet in his hand on the pile of photos on the coffee table. The photo shows Oscar having a great conversation with the 3 drunk guys from last night. They really did it. Jiang Shin didn't expect that their people would be able to take pictures of this kind of thing when they were following Oscar, but in the end they didn't succeed. Oscar finally saved Daisy and was stabbed. Stabbed? Yes. Oscar really spent a lot of money this time. They are just some superficial injuries, William. Oscar's methods are really cruel. Daisy is the sister he grew up with. Even if they're not related by blood, they still have some feelings for each other. Isn't he worried that this kind of thing will bring psychological trauma to Daisy? William sneered. Oscar has no bottom line at all. For his own purpose, let alone Daisy, even Dora, if necessary, he will not show mercy. Jiang Shin shook his head. It's terrible. He's so young, but he's already so vicious. If this continues for a few more years, it will be terrible. It's all the Chun family's fault. They bring disaster upon themselves. That's right. Then William, what are you going to do with these photos and videos? Are you going to expose Oscar's true identity to Daisy? Why do you want to expose Oscar's true identity? The story of Daisy and Oscar is far from over. This kind of thing must be taken out at the most critical moment, so that Daisy can open the gate of hell herself. And there is another key person on Daisy's side who has not appeared yet. Jiang Shun didn't quite understand what his boss said, but seeing his meaningful look, I felt an inexplicable chill in my heart. Kids nowadays are so scary. Chapter 203 David apologizes to Chun Wanning. The Chun group survived a desperate situation and received investment from the Rong group. Chun group and Zhao group have reached a strategic cooperation. Chun group and Wang group have reached a strategic cooperation. Chun group. Chun Yinyan looked at the various news about the Chun group on her mobile phone with her eyes wide open. Our family, is it going to turn things around? She excitedly handed the phone to Fiona, who was sitting next to her. Seventh sister, look, Our family is going to turn things around this time. Chun Yin hasn't worked for a long time. Although netizens' attention has been attracted by new gossip, her opponents are still there. Whenever she tries to make a comeback, her past affairs will be dug up. As a result, she can only watch her own resources being replaced. The Chun family's survival from desperate situation also gave her hope again. A big part of the reason why she was suppressed before was because her family fell into decline. Now that her family has made a comeback, is she still worried about not being able to return to the entertainment industry? She has not broken any law. Can the boycott of netizens be stronger than capital? Thinking of this, she became even more excited and took her phone to find Chun wanting to tell her the good news. Just then, the doorbell rang. Chun Yin went over and opened the door. She was a little surprised to see David standing at the door. Dad, why are you here? David still remembered the last conflict between him and Chun Wanting, so he looked a little unnatural. Is your eldest sister home? Chun Yin has always been worried about the conflict between her father and her eldest sister, fearing that the father-daughter relationship between the two would really end. So when she heard David took the initiative to look for Chun Wanting, she was very excited and hurriedly said, "She's here. She's in the study." David nodded and walked towards the study. Unexpectedly, he was stopped by Chun Yin. Dad, you know my eldest sister's temper. You must talk to her nicely. David looked at Chun Yin's worried face and smiled. Don't worry, Dad knows. After that, he walked to the study door and knocked. Enter. After David entered the room, his eyes met Chun Wanting's, and he looked very embarrassed. Chun Wanting didn't expect David to come to see her. She was stunned for a moment, then quickly came to her senses, her face full of indifference. What are you doing here? I don't remember what property I have yet to hand over. David didn't say anything. He walked over and sat down opposite Chun Wanting, then put the brown paper bag in front of her. What's this? Open it and take a look first. Chun Wanting thought about it, reached out to take the brown paper bag, opened it, and after seeing what was inside, a hint of surprise flashed across her eyes. She couldn't believe it. David actually returned all the group shares, real estate, jewelry, and other things she had returned to her before. The shares are even 3 points higher than before. David pulled the corners of his lips awkwardly. Ning, Dad is here to apologize to you. Apologize? Chun Wanting raised her eyebrows slightly. She knew David's temper. It would be more difficult to get him to bow his head than to chop him with a knife. He actually apologized to her? David nodded. Last time, it was indeed Dad who was impulsive. I took out some of my anger for being betrayed by Oscar. That beast on you. I couldn't help but hit you. I hope you can forgive Dad. Chun Wanting didn't say anything, but her eyes had turned red. Dad knows that I have wronged you and your sisters over the years, including William. As for William, Dad can't make amends. If possible, I hope you can give Dad a chance and make it up to you. Chun Wanting's tears rolled down her eyes, and she quickly raised her hand to wipe them away. She does value profit, but she is not a heartless person. She has been waiting for this apology for many years. David's eyes were also very red. Ning, whether you are willing to give Dad this opportunity or not, Dad will leave what you have in your hand to you. Dad has decided that after he dies, he will not leave a penny to Oscar. All of it will go to you children. Of course, I will leave more to William. After all, he is the person that Dad feels most sorry for. I hope you can understand this. Chun Wanting was silent for a moment, then asked, I heard the group had this turnaround because of Oscar. You made this choice. Aren't you afraid? David sneered. I raised him for so many years, but he messed up my family like this. Now if he does something for my Chun family, it will be considered as paying for the child support for all these years. Ning, don't worry. Dad only has eyes for you, his biological children. As for your mother, since she is so determined to choose Oscar, I don't bother to care about her. When the time comes, if she is willing to leave her things to Oscar, then let her do it. You don't have to go home, and you don't have to honor her. She has her adopted son, and that's enough for her. Hospital ward. Brother, are you still in pain now? After Oscar came out of the bathroom, Daisy helped her walk to the bedside. It really doesn't hurt anymore, don't worry, second sister. Oscar said as he sat down carefully. Daisy recalled the thrilling scene of last night. She felt deeply moved, but also a little ashamed. All day today, whenever she saw Oscar's face, she would remember how she wanted to abandon Oscar and leave alone. She has ignored such a good brother, but he is still willing to risk his life for him. Finally, she would do such a thing. She is really terrible. If her brother knew what she was thinking at that time, he would probably look down on her, right? Thinking of this, her tears fell unconsciously. Second sister, what's wrong with you? Oscar asked with a worried look on his face. Daisy shook her head. I'm fine. Oscar chuckled. Okay, second sister, you really don't have to feel sorry for me. I really don't feel any pain at all. You are also a doctor. You must know that I only have minor skin injuries. I have suffered such a minor injury, but I have not only saved you, but also cleared up the misunderstanding between us. I am really happy. When Daisy heard this, she couldn't help but hugged Oscar and burst into tears. Brother, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have misunderstood you as someone who has deep thoughts. I will never think of you like this again. Oscar patted Daisy's back gently. Second sister, don't be like this, I won't blame you. As he spoke, Oscar's mouth corners slightly raised. After crying for a while, Daisy felt better. Oscar coaxed her for a while before letting her go back to work. As soon as she left, Shinu came. Oscar's face lit up with joy when he saw Shinu. Master, why are you here? How did you become like this? Shinu's face looked a little ugly. Oscar smiled. I put on a big show and won back Daisy's heart. Shinu looked at his smug face, was silent for a moment, and then said, Where's the wound? Let me see. Master, don't worry about me. It's just a minor injury. Where is the wound? Shinu asked again with a cold face. Oscar then realized that Shinu's expression was not right, and hurriedly said carefully, It's on the waist. Let me see. Oscar nervously lifted the quilt and lifted the hem of his hospital gown, revealing a piece of gauze stained with a little blood. Shinu didn't say anything, but reached out and tore off the gauze on the wound. The pain of his flesh being torn apart made Oscar tremble. Shinu looked up at him. Does it hurt? Oscar gritted his teeth and forced a smile. Fine. Shinu stretched out 2 fingers and inserted them into Oscar's wound and began to stir it. So, how about this? Chapter 204 Program Restart. Oscar suddenly felt a sharp pain and cried out in pain. Shut up. Shinu scolded in a low voice, then asked with a smile. Does it hurt? It hurts, it hurts. Oscar grabbed the edge of the bed tightly, enduring the pain. In just a moment, his body was drenched in cold sweat. Shinu's face darkened, and then he pulled his finger out of Oscar's wound. It hurts, that's right. Remember this. If you dare to act on your own again next time, I promise that the pain you suffer will be 100 or 1,000 times greater than this time. He gracefully pulled out 2 tissues from the tissue box beside him and slowly wiped the blood off his fingers. Oscar looked up, saw the cruelty in his eyes, and realized that he was definitely not joking. Although he didn't know why Shinu was so angry, he nodded anyway. I understand, Master. Shinu threw the tissue in his hand, which was stained with blood, into the trash can, then hooked his toes to a chair and sat down. Oscar, do you still think you're so smart? You acted a little and got hurt a little, but you caught that idiot Daisy. Oscar didn't dare to speak again, for fear that this madman would torture him again. Shinu chuckled and continued. But what if I tell you that all your actions are under William's surveillance? Oscar's pupils trembled. William is monitoring me? How is this possible? How is that impossible? There are people with him outside your ward right now. So, do you still think you were smart? Oscar felt angry and scared. Then, will he know that this was all my plan? Are you scared now? Shinu sneered. Oscar was extremely panicked. He didn't dare to think about what would happen to him if Daisy and the Chun family knew about this. He had finally managed to change the attitude of the Chun family members towards him. If they knew that he had used this kind of thing to plot against Daisy, they would probably want to kill him. Master, please help me, please help me. Oscar was so anxious that he got off the bed and knelt down in front of Shinu. There was a sneer on Shinu's lips. Why? Are you asking me for help now? Didn't I help you when your 4th sister wanted to find a spokesperson? Why did you keep your 2nd sister's matter so secret? Master, I'm sorry. I know I was wrong. I just feel that you have done too much for me. I am sorry to trouble you again. Are you worried that I won't want to help you anymore? Oscar remained silent and agreed with his words. Shinu sighed softly. Forget it. Let's just leave it at that this time. Just remember, don't hide anything from me in the future. You don't have to worry about bothering me here. I will help you get everything you want. After hearing this, Oscar finally felt relieved. Then, Master, if William really knew about this, what should I do? Shinu sneered. Whether he knows it or not, I don't plan to keep that guy. And let's get rid of Chung Fu, who is beside him this time. What? Brothers and Sisters Come on Adventure is going to be rebooted? William was very surprised when he heard Zhou Sinan's words. This show has been in such a mess before, and it's going to be restarted? Could it be that the people above are planning to break the information blockade and slowly bring metaphysics into the public eye? Zhou Sinan nodded. The higher-ups do intend to relax the blockade. The restart of the program is a direct message from the higher-ups. And this time, they specifically asked you and Chung Fu to participate in the program. You want me to attend? Now, William was even more confused. He is not a person in the entertainment industry, so why did the higher-ups specifically ask him to participate in the show? Is it for the sake of happiness? This possibility does exist. After all, Chung Fu is considered to be the top master of mysticism in the country. Besides me, who else is confirmed to participate in the show? William asked. Oscar and Chen Yunyun have already confirmed that they will participate. Also, do you know Guiao, this female artist? William was not surprised that Chen Yunyun would attend. She had been picking her feet at home for so many days, so she must be eager to make a comeback. Now that she has finally been invited to a show, she is afraid she will have to rush over as fast as she can. However, this Guiao surprised him a little. First she endorsed Chen Lang, and now she is going to participate in the same program with Oscar. Is it just a coincidence? I've heard of this guy. William, meaningfully. Guiao is indeed the goddess of otakus. Even William, who has such a cold personality, can... William, you're overthinking it. I heard about her because she immediately accepted the endorsement of the game produced by Daisy Company. Okay. Who will be the Xianxia after this? Will it be just Ching Fu? William asked. No, this program has been revised. In order to protect the safety of the guests, each family will be assigned a mysterious master. Zhou Sinan suddenly thought of something and said, oh, by the way, the Wan brothers and sisters and the Du brothers and sisters have said that they will only participate in this program if you participate, so you look at your side. At this point, he paused, afraid that William might misunderstand him, and explained, don't get me wrong, it's okay if you don't want to go. Although the higher-ups specifically asked for this show to be restarted, the old man's reputation is there, so not doing it won't have much of an impact. William was silent for a moment, then raised the corners of his lips slightly. Go, why not? For some reason, he felt that the sudden restart of this show was a bit weird. It seemed like it was directed at him, and he trusted his instincts. In that case, let's go check it out. Chapter 2:05 New Year. Daisy was absent-minded after returning to the office. Although Oscar didn't know that when he risked his life to save her, what she wanted in her heart was to abandon him. But the condemnation of her conscience made her extremely uncomfortable. She couldn't accept that she was such a bad person. Even when she went out to get water and saw her colleagues chatting and laughing, she felt that they were laughing at her. Everything around her made her feel depressed. She had no choice but to escape to the rooftop. When she reached the rooftop, she stood by the railing, looked up at the sky, her heart full of regret, and couldn't help shedding tears. Just then, a man's hand reached out. The man held a tissue in his long, bony fingers. Daisy looked up in a daze and saw a handsome face. You are Ling Yuan, the new deputy director of the psychology department? Ling Yuan smiled slightly. Do you know me? Not really knowing him, just heard of him, and Daisy pointed to the nameplate on his chest. Your name is on it. I had actually forgotten about this. Ling Yuan's smile deepened, and he then handed the tissue forward. Thank you. Daisy took the tissue. Ling Yuan smiled slightly, turned around and leaned against the railing beside him, crossing his legs naturally. Since we happen to meet here, how about a psychological consultation? Don't worry, since we are colleagues, I can give you an internal prize for the consultation. If it works, just treat me to a meal. Although Daisy has never been in a relationship, she is almost 30 years old after all. How could she not understand Ling Yuan's obvious gesture of goodwill? Few women can remain indifferent to the advances of an outstanding man, let alone a woman like Daisy, who has dreamed of being a prince or princess since childhood. In addition, her mind was in turmoil at the moment. So when she heard this, she wiped the tears from her face and turned to look at Ling Yuan involuntarily. When I met his smiling eyes, my heart inexplicably skipped a beat. She subconsciously said, I think I am a very bad person. After a deep conversation, Daisy and Ling Yuan exchanged contact information and left the rooftop in a relaxed mood. Ling Yuan did not pursue her relentlessly. After watching her leave, he waited for a few minutes before leaving the rooftop. At the same time, because Dora and Chun Lang wanted to come and see Oscar, Shinu used his mysterious skills to treat Oscar's wounds and then left. He waited in front of the elevator door for a while before an elevator came. There were only a few people inside, so it wasn't too crowded. Ling Yuan happened to be in this elevator, standing in the corner with an indifferent expression. Xian Yu looked at him, and then they both looked away. With Xian Yu's mysterious skills, Oscar's injuries recovered extremely quickly. But by the next day, he could no longer feel the wound on his waist. On the third day, he was discharged from the hospital. Because he was worried that William would reveal the truth, he didn't dare to play the victim in front of Daisy these days. But after waiting for a few days, there was still no movement from William, and Daisy was still caring for him. So he gradually felt relieved. He thought maybe Xian Yu was overthinking. Although William sent people to follow him, he did it so covertly that William probably didn't notice it. As for those who were following him secretly, he found a reason to call the police and had 2 people arrested. However, he had no substantial evidence, and the police could do nothing to those people. They could only treat it as a misunderstanding and release them. But there is an advantage to doing this. That means William temporarily withdrew those personnel. Time soon came to the new year. This new year is the first one celebrated by the Chun family after William left. It was also the quietest year for the Chun family in all these years. On New Year's Eve, only David and his wife, Daisy, Chun Lang, Chun Ilan, and Oscar were at home. Although everyone was trying to ignore the fact that there were still 3 daughters who refused to come back, the atmosphere at home was still affected. Although Dora was angry, she didn't care about anything as long as her beloved son was by her side. Daisy was worried about Oscar's health and also wanted to make it up to him, so she stayed by his side almost every step of the way. Chun Lang is very proud of herself now because the game's internal testing is imminent, and almost the entire network is looking forward to it. She didn't care at all about the departure of those sisters. On the contrary, because Oscar helped her find a good spokesperson, she almost held Oscar in her hands. Although Chun Ilan had some resentment towards Oscar before, after learning about what Oscar had done for Daisy, she completely put those thoughts behind her, and her relationship with Oscar returned to the past. So, when David came down from upstairs, what he saw was a scene of everyone surrounding Oscar and asking him about his well-being. Thinking of the 3 daughters who were still outside, and the biological son who had completely severed ties with the family, a hint of cruelty flashed in his eyes when he looked at Oscar. "Dad, are you done?" Oscar asked with a smile when he saw David. Yes, David immediately put on a smile. "We can have the New Year's Eve dinner now." Although this is a New Year's Eve dinner sent by a 5-star hotel, I always feel like something is missing. Fiona put down her chopsticks and looked at the table in front of her, which was filled with beautifully presented delicacies from land and sea, and said in a depressed tone, "Yeah, when I was filming before, I also spent the New Year away from home, but even then I didn't feel as sad as I do now." Chun Yunyun also put down her chopsticks. "What do you think they're doing at home now?" Chun Wanning sneered. "They are probably all busy sending New Year's gifts to Oscar. If you miss them, why don't you drive back? If you leave now, you can still catch up with your good brother and watch the Spring Festival Gala." Chun Yunyun and Fiona's faces turned dark instantly. Who wants to watch the Spring Festival Gala with this bitch? I will never forgive him in my life. After Randy did this to me, his first reaction was to help Randy delete the surveillance. That's right, that ungrateful bastard. When I see him, I want to slap him in the face. I will never, ever forget the moment he pushed me towards that evil spirit. I will never forgive him in this life. Upon hearing this, Chun Wanning glanced at Chun Yunyun. "If that's the case, why did you take on that show? Continue to play the role of brother and sister with Oscar." "Who said I took that show just to play the role of brother and sister with that bitch? I'm going to torture him this time. He could do such a thing to me. So how could I do nothing?" Chun Yunyun sneered, then suddenly remembered something, and her expression immediately became a little lost. "And I also want to take this opportunity to make amends to my brother William. I have done too many things to let him down. If I don't make up for some of my sins, I will feel uneasy for the rest of my life." Chapter 206, Brother. "I'm sorry." Fiona's eyes turned red when she heard this. "I regret it too. If we hadn't been deceived by Oscar and humiliated Brother William in every way, perhaps we wouldn't have ended up like this with Brother William." Chun Wanning remained silent. If it was that family who hurt William the most, I guess even Oscar may not be able to compare to her. During this period of time, she had been blocking all memories of William because she didn't dare to think about the dark and vicious self. Now that these 2 people suddenly brought it up, she felt that she was almost suffocated by the guilt, so she picked up the red wine at hand and drank it all. It took a long time to recover. I don't know what Brother William is doing now. Is he living well by himself? Will he be lonely during the New Year? Fiona said with red eyes. Do you remember that the first year when Brother William came back, our whole family went on vacation to Hawaii, but he was the only one who didn't go? As she said this, she smiled bitterly, reached out for a red wine glass, poured a glass of wine into it, and drank most of the glass in one breath. That time, I actually threw his passport and wallet into the trash can at the airport. He thought he forgot to bring them. Dora was so angry that she scolded him at the airport and sent him back. Later, Randy told me that when he got home, it was already past 3 in the morning. He walked home because I deliberately left his phone at home. He couldn't even get a taxi. He walked from around 4 in the afternoon until around 3 in the morning. I wanted to stop him from going with us. I thought he was too unsophisticated and would only embarrass us, and he always bullied Oscar. Later, when we arrived in Hawaii, I deliberately sent him a lot of photos of us having fun every day. I just wanted him to feel that our family would be better without him. I want him to leave the Chun family. At this point, Fiona was already in tears. Big sister, third sister, tell me, why am I so bad? So stupid and bad. William is my biological brother, born from the same mother as me. Why would I treat him like this? Chun Wanting and Chun Union fell silent when they heard this. They really didn't know what to say. Although Fiona went too far, Daisy has done similar things before. Chun Wanting did not torture William in any overt way after he returned home. But this was not because she didn't want to hurt William, but because she never took William seriously. Not to mention, if she had not turned a blind eye to William being taken away by human traffickers, William's fate would not have been so tragic. To put it bluntly, she is the culprit of all this. Chun Yinyin also started crying at this time. She was drinking and crying, recounting the sins she had committed against William and the regret she felt now. Seeing this, Chun Wanting finally couldn't help but join them. He poured glass after glass of expensive red wine into his mouth. Brother, you are so stupid. You are old, and you can't even make dumplings. Who am I? Do I need to make dumplings? Who are you? You are just like me, a little apprentice. Look at my brother Shun and Annie Tion, and see how well they make dumplings. I'm telling you, don't cook these dumplings you make with ours later. Why? Your dumplings are too ugly. They are not worthy of being put into the same pot with our dumplings. Ha ha ha. You are so outrageous. When we stay up tonight, draw 100 amulets for me. Senior brother, I was wrong. When William came down from upstairs, he saw this lively scene. He couldn't help but curl the corners of his mouth. Master, after seeing William, Tina immediately threw away the dumpling wrappers in her hand and ran over to complain. It's New Year's Day, and my senior brother is bullying me. This is simply too much. Tina, stop confusing right and wrong here. I'm doing this for your own good. It's been so long, and my hands are shaking even when I draw a talisman. Ching fu ritorte immediately. William looked at the chaotic situation between the two brothers and sisters, and the smile on his lips deepened a little. Antion looked at William and started laughing too. Master, come and make dumplings with me. William looked at the hundreds of dumplings on the table, smiled, said okay, and walked towards the table. He had forgotten how long it had been since he last made dumplings, but as soon as the dumpling skins got in his hands, he began to make them skillfully as if his muscle memory had been awakened. After all, before returning to the Chun family, he did almost all the work at his adoptive parents' home. So there is nothing he doesn't know how to do housework. In the past, he didn't like doing these things. He always wondered why his younger brother just had to wait for food while he had to do so much work. Later, after he returned to the Chun family, although he didn't like it, he still did it in order to please those so-called blood relatives. But now, he suddenly felt that it was nice to be able to do these ordinary things in his warm home with a few people who really cared about him when all the lights were on. However, the peaceful happiness did not last long. The doorbell suddenly rang. Jiang Shun wiped his hands, picked up the tablet beside him, and checked the surveillance video. When he saw who was coming, his brows furrowed deeply. William, it's Chun Yunyin and Fiona. They don't look right. They must have drunk too much. William raised his eyebrows after hearing this. It was New Year's Eve, and these two people got drunk and ran to his doorstep. What did they want to do? I'll go and take a look. He put the dumplings he had just wrapped on the table, stood up, and walked out. As soon as he walked into the yard, William heard the two people's ghostly howling. Brother William, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I really know I was wrong. I shouldn't have hit you before. I shouldn't have deliberately torn up your passport. I shouldn't have always wanted to kick you out of the house. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Please forgive me, okay? And me, brother, please forgive me. I shouldn't have failed to appreciate your kindness to me and shouldn't have wasted the gift you worked so hard to get for me. At this time, Chun was sitting in the car, watching the farce in front of her calmly. Chapter 207. Fiona kneels down and asks for forgiveness. The gate slowly opened. William walked up to Chun and Fiona and frowned slightly at the sight of their flushed faces, dazed eyes, and unable to stand steadily. Chun and Fiona, are you two crazy? Fiona was startled when she heard this. Third sister, I seem to hear Brother William's voice. As she spoke, she tried hard to focus her eyes, finally saw the person standing in front of her, and walked forward excitedly. Brother William, it's really you. You finally came out. Are you finally willing to forgive me? Brother William, and me. Chun also saw William at this time, and walked up to him quickly. Third sister knows that she was wrong. Brother William, can you forgive me? Third sister will never be deceived by Oscar, that bitch again. Third sister will definitely treat you well in the future. You believe in me, okay? As she spoke, Chun reached out to grab William's arm, but William took 2 steps back with a cold face. Chun was already drunk, and when she failed to hold on to William, she lost her balance for a moment and staggered for a while before she could stand still. Brother William. Chun looked at William with red eyes. Third sister really knows she is wrong. Please forgive me, okay? William looked at Chun with cold eyes. Chun, have you finished pretending? Do you think you can play a person who is drunk and blacking out with your terrible acting skills? Chun did drink some wine and was a little drunk, but she knew clearly what she was doing and acted like this on purpose. She just wanted to use the alcohol to build up courage and apologize to William so as to win back her biological brother. The same is true for Fiona. So after hearing William's words, both of them froze. William laughed sarcastically. Look, even for something like an apology, you have to pretend to be drunk before you dare to come. How can I believe your sincerity? Fiona stared at William, her eyes full of sadness. Brother William, will you forgive me only after you see our sincerity? William glanced at Fiona and said, Forget it, Fiona. Everything you have done to me is engraved in my mind. Even if you die, I will never forgive you in this life. Now, if you don't want to spend New Year's Eve in the police station, you'd better get out of here. Fiona felt a pang of pain in her heart when she saw William's cold eyes. All the past events appeared before her eyes one by one. When she returned home in the middle of the night, William followed her silently and protected her. When she was harassed in a nightclub, William stood up and fought with them, and was beaten by a group of people until he couldn't even get up. She was in a bad mood and took it out on William. These images made her heart feel as if it was being tightly grasped by a huge hand, making her even breathe with pain. Tears fell like beads from a broken string. I'm sorry, brother. Fiona knelt down. When Chun saw her suddenly kneel down, she was stunned. Seventh sister, William also didn't expect that the person who was the most arrogant and aggressive in the past would actually kneel down and beg for his forgiveness. However, the hatred in his heart did not change because of her kneeling. Fiona, do you think I will forgive you if you kneel down and admit your mistakes to me? Have you forgotten? You've made me kneel like this before, more than once. When Fiona heard this, her thoughts were pulled back to the past. Several times, she made William kneel down because of Oscar's lies. The most outrageous time was when it was raining heavily outside, and she made William kneel in the yard. It seemed like she really had no right to ask for William's forgiveness. Thinking of this, Fiona didn't have the face to say another word and just stared at William. At this moment, she just wanted to sincerely apologize to William. That's all. William could also feel her sincerity, but he still didn't intend to forgive her. He never thought of forgiveness. He looked at Fiona's face full of regret and was silent for a long time. It was so long that a glimmer of hope suddenly arose in Fiona's heart. Could it be that Brother William is willing to forgive her and give her another chance because they are from the same mother? However, the next second, William's actions ruthlessly shattered her fantasy. William took out his cell phone and made a call. I am the owner of Building 16. 2 strangers are causing trouble here. Please send someone over to deal with it as soon as possible. After saying that, he hung up the phone and turned away. Fiona's heart sank completely. Brother William, are you really going to be so cruel? Chun shouted at the top of her lungs. But William did not look back, nor did he even pause for a moment. Chun wanted to say something, but Fiona suddenly said, Okay, third sister, stop talking. Chun looked at Fiona, and her eyes couldn't help but turn red. Finally, she sighed deeply and helped Fiona up. Let's go. Not far away. Chun Wanning, who was hiding in the corner, looked at the lonely backs of the two sisters, sighed deeply, and then smiled bitterly. Even after all this, he still won't forgive me. Chapter 208 Double Return. A few days after the Chinese New Year, the live recording of Brothers and Sisters Come Adventure was restarted. This time, the program was recorded in a village in the south called Guiao Village. This time, William did not go with Chun Yunyan. When he arrived, almost everyone was there except the new guests and Master Xian. As soon as everyone saw him, they gathered around him and wished each other a happy new year. Although Oscar and Chun Yunyan participated in the program together as siblings this time, William did not see Oscar on the scene. Chun Yunyan stood with her assistant, looking at William, who was chatting and laughing with everyone, with a look of loneliness on her face. Not long after, a black car drove up. Everyone looked over there and saw Oscar getting out of the car first. A moment later, a middle-aged woman who was dressed elegantly, but whose face was so weathered that even heavy makeup could not hide it, also got out of the car. Chun Yunyan saw Dora, her brows furrowed. What is she here for? Are you here to participate in the show as well? Chun Yunyan immediately asked her assistant to ask the director team, and she finally breathed a sigh of relief when she learned that she was just accompanying Oscar to record the show. But what followed was hatred for Dora. She has been in the industry for so many years, but Dora has never accompanied her to any shows, let alone visited her on set. There was even one time when she just refused to appear in a video, because she feels that the entertainment industry is low class and not worthy of her status. But now, she personally traveled thousands of miles to accompany her beloved adopted son to record the show. How ridiculous! Dora angrily. What are you doing here? Dora became angry when she heard her questioning tone. Is this the tone you should use when talking to a mother like me? How dare you say you're my mother's? Do you treat me as your daughter? You evil creature! Why didn't I treat you as my daughter? Did you jump out from a crack in the stone? Chun Yunyan laughed sarcastically. I really wish I had jumped out of a crack in a rock. At least I wouldn't have a mother like you, who can't tell right from wrong and is extremely biased. You! Mother! Dora was just about to teach Chun Yunyan a lesson when Oscar suddenly interrupted her. Mom, please stop arguing with my third sister. There are so many people here. Oscar looked at Chun Yunyan helplessly. Third sister, please don't be angry. Mom has just recovered from a serious illness, and her body has not recovered yet. If you continue to argue, what if you make Mom angry? Don't call me third sister. Chun Yunyan said angrily. I, Chun Yunyan, don't have a brother as vicious as you. Bang! When Dora heard Chun Yunyan scolding Oscar like that, she immediately became furious and slapped her in the face. Dora in disbelief. Dora said sternly, Chun Yunyan, are you crazy? What right do you have to say that about your brother? You even dare to say that he is vicious. I think you are the most vicious one. Younger brother? Chun Yunyan sneered and pointed at William, who was not far away, and said, Dora, take a good look at my brother's body. What is Oscar? He is just a bastard who came from nowhere. He has the nerve to say that he is my brother, Chun Yunyan. Evil creature. Dora yelled angrily and raised her hand to hit Chun Yunyan again. But this time, Chun Yunyan was prepared. She quickly grabbed her hand and looked at her with cruelty in her eyes. Dora was stunned for a moment, then looked at Chun Yunyan angrily. What? You still want to hit me? I'm your mother. Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning? Chun Yunyan sneered. Hit you? You are a lunatic. Do I need to hit you? After saying that, she shook off Dora's hand, raised her hand, and quickly slapped Oscar twice, which stunned Oscar. You evil creature, are you crazy? Dora screamed. Yes, I am crazy, driven crazy by you as a mother. You slapped me, so of course I have to pay it back. But no matter what, you gave birth to me. If I hit you, there will always be people who say it is my fault, but I can't swallow this breath. So I have to hit your most beloved adopted son. Chun Yunyan had a mocking smile on her face. Your precious adopted son's face must be hurting right now. But I think your heart must be the most hurt, right? Dora, I'm telling you, although I won't lay a hand on you, if you dare to lay a finger on me again, I will make your good adopted son pay you back double. You dare! Dora was so angry that her breathing became rapid, and she pointed at Chun Yunyan angrily. You can try to see if I dare. Dora, in my eyes, you have no meaning other than the woman who gave birth to me. If you push me too far, the worst that can happen is that I will die together with your precious adopted son. After saying that, Chun Yunyan turned and left. Dora was so angry that she was shaking all over. She was about to rush over to settle the score with her, but was stopped by Oscar. Mom, don't. Son, don't be afraid. If she dares to hit you, Mom will never let her go. It's outrageous. How dare a daughter be so presumptuous in front of her mother? Oscar knew that if Dora continued to make trouble, the recording of the show would be affected. Master Xuanyu's plan to get rid of William have failed. He had waited so long for this opportunity. How could he let this idiot ruin it? Mom, I'm fine. Don't be angry with third sister anymore. How come you're okay? Your face is red. This little bitch is really ruthless. At this moment, Dora had already forgotten that she had just slapped Chun Yun in public. I'm really fine, Mom. If you keep making a fuss, we'll all become a laughing stock in everyone's eyes. Have you forgotten what you promised me before you left? This time, Dora's following was not Oscar's intention. Dora originally didn't want him to participate in this show. After all, someone almost died on the show last time. She felt it was too dangerous. But Oscar was determined to get rid of William in this show and insisted on participating. Dora had no choice but to agree. However, she also had a request, which was that she had to accompany him throughout the whole process. In this way, if something happens along the way, she can take her precious son away. Oscar had no choice but to agree. But I didn't expect that such a thing would happen just after I arrived, and I got slapped twice for nothing. Thinking of this, he clenched his fists in hatred, and a hint of murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Chun Yun, I won't let you go. He swore secretly in his heart. Then he pulled Dora into the car. As soon as they left, everyone started whispering. No one expected that such a big bite of melon would be eaten before the show even started. Originally, they thought that Chun Yun took on the show without hesitation because she had reconciled with Oscar. Now, after watching this drama in the Chun family, I realized that this is not a reconciliation at all. This clearly shows that the relationship has deteriorated to the point where it is irreconcilable. The new director Zhong Chung was so happy at this time. Looking at the relationship between Chun Yun and Oscar, the brother and sister, there was no worry that the show would not be popular. On the other side, the guests were also shocked at this time. Is this woman really crazy? She is doing this to her own daughter. Yes, I have never seen such a person. He doesn't care about his own sons and daughters, and only cares about his adopted son. William, is this Chun Balian really not the biological son of the old lady? I've seen similar content in many novels, where they say he's an adopted son, but he's actually the biological son of the first love he had outside. Oscar must have cast a spell on him. Just as everyone was talking, another car drove over. After the car door opened, everyone's voices stopped abruptly. William, my wife. Did you see that? My lovely wife is finally here. Wan Mingshu tugged at the corner of William's clothes and spoke excitedly in a low voice. The person who came was Gu Jiao. William looked at Gu Jiao, then raised his eyebrows slightly. The face was covered up by a mysterious technique. Interesting. Chapter 209 Xian, you also came to participate in the show. Hello, everyone. I'm Gu Jiao. Nice to meet you all. Gu Jiao greeted everyone with a sweet smile. Most of the men at the scene felt their whole bodies soften when they heard her voice. Several guests also greeted her enthusiastically. Jiao, I'm your fan. Can I shake your hand? Wan Mingshu had completely lost his previous arrogant look and walked up to Gu Jiao with a silly smile. Sure. Gu Jiao took the initiative to extend her hand. Seeing this, Wan Mingshu's heart beat wildly, and he reached out and held Gu Jiao's delicate hand. But he was a man of propriety. He shook it lightly and then let go. Wan Yitong sighed. This idiot. He's drooling when he sees a beautiful woman. Seeing William still standing there with an indifferent expression, she said with emotion, William, you are still very determined and are not tempted by beauty at all. Jiao, I'm your fan too. William walked towards Gu Jiao with a smile and stretched out his hand. Wan Yitong. Gu Jiao looked at William. The smile on her face deepened a little. She gently held William's hand. A faint light flashed in her eyes. I watched the last show, so I know you. Your name is William. Yes. I really like your personality. Cool and interesting. When we record the show later, if there is a team-forming segment, you must be in a team with a sister. Gu Jiao scratched the back of William's hand with her nails, as if unintentionally. I couldn't ask for more. William smiled and finally let go of Gu Jiao's hand. William, we are indeed half-brothers. We even have the same tastes. We both like Jiao wives. William glanced at him speechlessly, too lazy to say anything more to him. The two returned to Wan Yitong, and William looked at Gu Jiaojiao again. At this time, Gu Jiaojiao was also looking at him. When their eyes met, Gu Jiaojiao raised the corners of her lips and revealed a charming smile. William smiled back, but the smile didn't reach his eyes at all. In fact, William was not a fan of Gu Jiaojiao at all. He just wanted to have some physical contact with Gu Jiaojiao. The moment he saw Gu Jiaojiao, he realized that her and Rong Wenyao's faces were covered by the same person. In addition, Gu Jiaojiao suddenly became the spokesperson for Chun Lang's game, and this matter was facilitated by Oscar. With Oscar's connections, it is impossible for him to get in touch with someone like Gu Jiaojiao. It goes without saying that the person who really made this happen should be Shinu. So, this so-called otaku goddess must be connected to Shinu or the person behind Shinu. Although Gu Jiaojiao's face was covered up, it was not impossible for William to force himself to see her real face. However, his cultivation has not yet fully recovered, and it is unknown how long it will take for him to reopen his third eye. If someone forcibly checks his face, both his cultivation and the merits he has accumulated will be affected. No matter how you look at it, this is not a cost-effective thing. So William chose another way. Just like he did with Rong Wenyao, he made direct physical contact with her and found out anything abnormal inside her body. Sure enough, he discovered Gu Jiaojiao's true identity. A complete evil cultivator. Gu Jiaojiao came to participate in the show this time to replace Qi Xiangyang. Qi Xiangyang was involved in a scandal not long after his last show. He forced his girlfriend to have an abortion before his debut, and he was also not disciplined after his debut. In the end, he even forced his girlfriend to have an abortion and accidentally killed her. He is now in prison. The person who made the move was William. William knew what he had done as soon as he saw his face and led the police to find the evidence. A top-tier star of a generation has fallen. William also earned a lot of merit from the wrong souls on his body. Qi Xiangyang had brought this upon himself. As soon as Gu Jiaojiao arrived, all the celebrity guests of the show were present. According to the program schedule, the live broadcast will officially begin at 9 in the morning. All the guests have also entered the waiting process. At 8:55, the live broadcast channel of the program was opened. The eagerly waiting audience instantly crowded into the live broadcast room, and the dense barrage of comments completely covered the live broadcast screen. However, 80% of these comments are about the people from the Chun family. Didn't Chun Yunyan quit the entertainment industry? Why is she still participating in variety shows? Didn't Oscar and Chun Yunyan break up? Is my memory confused? Didn't their whole family go to slander William before? Why did William still participate in the show with them? Was everything before a script? Isn't Oscar the adopted son of the Chun family? He has done so many disgusting things, and he still has the nerve to come out? Is he looking for a scolding? Family members, according to reliable sources, before the show even started, the Chun family had a fight in advance to liven up the atmosphere. What happened was that Chun Yunyan's mother slapped Chun Yunyan in public, and Chun Yunyan slapped Oscar twice in return. It was exciting. It doesn't matter if I see ghosts or not. I just want to see me, William, tear apart the Chun family's group of jackals and tigers. William, go. The new director was so happy to see the high popularity that he couldn't stop smiling. At 9 o'clock sharp, the live broadcast of the program officially began. All guests appeared in the live broadcast. Everyone, long time no see. The host Han Dong walked in front of the crowd with a smile on his face. After a brief greeting, he asked all the guests to greet the audience who were watching the live broadcast one by one. Chun Yunyan knew that no matter what she did now, the barrage of comments would definitely be full of insults at her. So she simply said hello and stopped talking. The same goes for Oscar. William was too lazy to say more. After completing the process, Han Dong began to introduce the revised program. My dear families, as you all know, our program is really about adventure. But after the last episode, we realized that the world is far more complicated than we thought. There are many dangers in places we cannot see. So in order to protect the safety of the guests and staff, our program team specially invited several professionals. Now, please welcome our master Shin. After a round of applause, the doors of 2 black cars parked not far away were opened. 5 masters got out of 2 cars and walked to the host. When William saw Xian Yu standing on the far left, he finally confirmed one thing in his heart. First it was Gu Jiaojiao, then Xian Yu. It seems that the restart of this show is completely aimed at him. 2. Given Oscar's personality, knowing that public opinion is unfriendly to him now, he would never come and bear the infamy if there weren't sufficient benefits. The biggest benefit this program can bring him is either to solve his own problem or to clear his reputation. Obviously, given Chun Yunyun's current attitude towards him, it is not an easy task to remove the stigma. Then his real purpose becomes obvious. He was a man who had seen the methods of evil spirits and had also been tortured by ghostly auras. So, isn't it normal for another ghost to come and kill one person? It was killed by a ghost. It has nothing to do with him. But William was not nervous about it. He even looked forward to it. He wanted to see where things would go if Oscar really wanted to use the power of ghosts to get rid of him. It must be fun. Chapter 210, teaming up with Xianyu. Among the 5 Xian masters invited by the program team this time, except Xianyu, who has never appeared in Xianmen, the other 4 are well-known figures in Xianmen. Needless to say, Chengfu was already a guest of honor among the top wealthy families in the capital. William in the last episode, so everyone present recognized him. But not many people know about the other 3. After Han Dong's introduction, everyone knew that these 3 people were members of the domestic Xianxia Association. William had heard of the Xianxia Association from Chengfu. It is said that this was founded by the 5 major Taoist families in the country, with the aim of inheriting metaphysics and discovering talented Taoist masters. Previously, Chengfu was recruited to the position of vice president. However, Chengfu did not like being constrained by others. In addition, he felt that this so-called Xianxia Association was filled with constant internal strife and chaos, which would affect his practice, so he refused. Therefore, in Han Dong's words, Chengfu and Xuanyu both appeared here as masters of Xianmen. After introducing the identities of the 5 masters, Han Dong began to introduce the subsequent program flow. Everyone, we are 5 groups of families in total. Each family will be led by a master to carry out the expedition mission. As for the combination of families and masters, we will leave it to metaphysics. As he said this, he took out a cardboard box. There are 10 small balls in this cardboard box, and every 2 balls are of the same color. Now, from left to right, the celebrity guest will send a representative to draw once, and then the master will draw once, and so on. In the end, the families and the master who draw the same color will be automatically grouped together. Okay, now let's invite the first family, Chun Yunyun's group, to send a representative to draw the ball. After saying that, he walked up to Chun Yunyun holding the cardboard box. Chun Yunyun stretched out her hand and was about to draw the ball when she suddenly thought of something. She turned to look at William and suggested in a flattering manner, "Brother, why don't you draw it?" William pondered for a moment, nodded, and reached into the cardboard box. Chun Yunyun breathed a sigh of relief, and the corners of her mouth rose slightly. Brother William didn't reject her. Could it be that his attitude has softened a little? William drew a small black ball. Han Dong turned around and came to Xianyu, who was standing on the far left, holding the cardboard box. "Master Xuanyu, please draw the ball." Xianyu smiled faintly and reached into the cardboard box. After a moment, he also took out a small black ball. "It seems that I am quite lucky. I found my members so quickly." William caught a glimpse of Oscar beside him with his mouth curled up uncontrollably and sneered in his heart. It seems Xianyu has already reached into the program team. A few minutes later, the other groups of guests also finished drawing the balls. Wan Yitong and her brother and sister and Chengfu all drew red balls and formed a team. The other 3 groups also formed their own teams. Han Dong began to introduce the program's adventure mission. Everyone, the place we are exploring in this episode is called Guiao Village. This village used to be the richest village in the surrounding area, with more than 3,000 villagers. But I believe that you have all seen along the way that the population of this village is now very sparse. According to statistics, there are less than 300 people left in this village. And the expedition mission of this episode is to find out why the number of villagers in Guiao Village has decreased so much. Could it be that because urbanization is accelerating, most people have moved into the city? Deng, Anji asked. This? Han Dong smiled mysteriously. It's up to you to explore on your own. Well, my mission is over, and next it's your adventure. First of all, I want to make it clear that in the next 3 days and 2 nights, our program team will not provide you with any help. You have to rely on your own food, drink, and accommodation during the recording of the program. What? Not even a place to live? Wan Mingxiu asked in surprise. Han Dongnu did. Next, I wish you all good luck. As soon as he finished speaking, Han Dong left the camera and returned to the staff team. In order to improve the show effect, everyone argued with the director team for a while, hoping that the director team could at least help them solve the accommodation problem. But the director team refused to listen, so they had to give up. After entering the village, Everyone found that the area of the village was very large. There were sparse crops planted on both sides of a dilapidated, bumpy cement road. Almost half of the fields were abandoned and overgrown with weeds. In the fields, there were several farmers busy working. After hearing the voices of the crowd, they looked up and their expressions looked a little strange. "William, this time my sister and I are still going to follow you," Wan Mingshu said here, and suddenly thought of something, looking at Oscar and Chun Yun with disgust. "Forget it, William. You can team up with me and my sister like last time and join our team." As soon as he finished speaking, a staff member beside him reminded him. "Teacher Xiaowan, the program team has a rule that the team cannot be changed during the entire program." Wan Mingshu's face darkened slightly, and he was about to say something, but was stopped by William. "It's okay. When we do the mission, we can just act together. When we look for a place to stay later, we can find a place that's closer." Wan Mingshu felt better after hearing this. Chun Yun also breathed a sigh of relief. When Wan Mingshu mentioned changing teams just now, her heart was in her throat. William, because of the show, and she was thinking about getting along well with him and getting him to forgive her. William goes to another team before the game even starts. What's the point of her still being together? Just then a gust of wind blew by. Everyone shrank their necks unconsciously. "It's so cold." "Yeah, why is it so cold all of a sudden?" Wan Mingshu leaned close to William's ear and whispered, "William, is there a ghost here?" Chapter 211. Get out. You are not allowed to enter our village. William glanced at Wan Mingshu and smiled. "It's okay. Even if there are ghosts, Master Chingfu is here." As he spoke, he winked at Wan Mingshu. Wan Mingshu suddenly remembered his son William's heroic performance when he caught ghosts last time, and he felt inexplicably relaxed. Wan Yidong was afraid that her silly brother would get excited and tell everything, so she quickly pulled him away. After the last show, William personally told them not to tell anyone about what happened in the old house. Although they didn't know why William was unwilling to reveal his abilities, since he said so, they chose to respect it. So after the show ended, when someone asked about it, they all said that the evil spirit hurt Oscar, and then was hurt by the amulet William was carrying and ran away. The group walked along the road for a while before they saw an occupied house. The house was in a dilapidated state, with large chunks of wall paint having already fallen off. An old lady came out with a basin of water, bent over. When she was about to pour the water, she looked at the crowd, paused, and walked towards them. The old lady had a head full of black hair and cloudy eyes. She looked very old. Her back was very bent, and her face was so thin that it was scary, and her cheeks were completely sunken. She looked at everyone, her mouth moving all the time, mumbling something. "Grandma, are you talking to us?" Wan Yidong asked curiously. The old lady walked closer and closer to them, and then they finally understood what she was saying. "Get out. Get out. You are not allowed to enter our village." Wan Yidong's expression froze. "Grandma, we are here to record the show. Why are you asking us to get out?" "Get out!" As the old lady spoke, she splashed the water in her hand onto everyone. Several girls screamed and moved away. Wan Yidong was standing at the front, and although she had left early, her trouser legs were still wet. She was so angry that her eyes turned red. "Grandma, you're going too far, right? I didn't provoke you. Why did you pour water on me? Get out. Get out. You are not allowed to enter our village." The old lady was still chasing them away, and her originally terribly thin face now took on a fierce look. Wan Yidong was so scared that she felt a chill on her back and subconsciously took a step back. Seeing this, Wan Mingsu hurriedly protected her and was about to say something, but Chengfu suddenly said, "Let's go. This old man doesn't look like he can communicate well." As soon as he finished speaking, William also came over. "Okay, let's stop wasting time here. Let's find a place to live first." Wan Mingshu nodded with a frustrated look on his face. After the group walked forward for a distance, Wan Yidong suddenly turned around and saw that the old lady had caught up with them without her knowing when. The old lady walked slowly and lagged far behind them, but Wan Yidong could still see her sinister expression and got goosebumps all over her body. "Master Chingfu, that old lady was following us just now. She looked so scary." Chengfu paused, looked back, and then sighed softly. "It's okay. She won't hurt you, just keep going." When Wan Yidong heard this, she was still a little scared and reached out to hold Wan Mingshu's arm. Unexpectedly, Wan Mingshu was even more scared than him and pulled her closer to William. "William." After a while, everyone saw a middle-aged man carrying a dung bucket. The strong stench made them frown instantly. After learning from the lesson of the old lady, no one dared to talk to the man and stood further away. They just dared to watch him silently, fearing that he would throw feces on them if they disagreed with him. When the man saw this group of outsiders, a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes, and his mouth moved. He was about to say something, but suddenly thought of something, looked away, lowered his head, and continued walking forward. "Uncle," William suddenly called him. The man paused, his face showing a struggle, as if he was considering whether to stay. William could see that this middle-aged man was a simple and honest person, so he walked towards him. "Uncle, can I ask where the village chief lives?" The man thought about it, pointed him in a direction in broken Mandarin, and left in a hurry. William didn't say anything more. He glanced at the old lady standing not far away, and the old lady immediately put on a fierce expression. But William just smiled and returned to the group. "William, why are you asking where the village chief's home is?" Wang Mingxiu asked. William nodded. "This village is too big. We don't know how long we will get there if we walk aimlessly like this. And I feel like the villagers here don't seem to welcome us. But the village chief should know that we are here to record a show. We might as well go and ask him directly. Maybe he can help us find a place to stay." When Wang Mingxiu heard this, his eyes lit up. "Yes, William, you are so smart. You are worthy of it. Let's go." In fact, several artists who often record programs can think of this point. It's a pity that the old lady's behavior just now was too strange. They were too nervous at the moment and ignored the simplest way to deal with it. The crowd continued walking forward and came to a two-story building. This is a red brick house that looks very ordinary, but it was the best house they had ever found. At least it was obvious that someone was taking care of it regularly. "This should be the village chief's house," William said. "Then I'll go knock on the door." After Deng Anji finished speaking, he walked to the courtyard wall and shouted loudly, "Is anyone there?" After shouting several times, a dark-skinned man came out of the house. The man didn't look very old, probably around 40 years old. "Excuse me, are you the village chief of our village?" Deng Anji asked. Yes, I'm the village chief here. My name is Lu Wanping. Are you here to record the show?" Lu Wanping opened the iron gate of the yard and welcomed everyone in. The group followed him into the house. The houses in the village are generally large, so even if more than a dozen people stood in the living room, it wouldn't be too crowded. It's just that the male guests had no place to sit. But no one cares about such trivial matters. "Village Chief Lu, did the production crew tell you before? We're going to stay here for 3 days and 2 nights, and we need to find a place to stay ourselves." Deng Anji is the oldest among the celebrity guests, and he took the initiative to take on the task of dealing with the village chief. "As I said, you came to see me. Is there anything you need help with?" Deng Anji smiled and said, "We really need your help now. We have come all the way here and felt that the villagers in your village seem to be a little hostile to outsiders. So we would like to ask the village chief if it would be convenient for you to take us to find a place to stay." "That's easy," Lu Wanping said generously. "You can live in my house, but I don't have many rooms. Only 2 empty rooms. My brother's house next door is empty, and you can live there after cleaning it up. His house has 5 rooms, 2 downstairs and 3 upstairs. If you don't mind, you can live there. As for the others, you'll have to find them by yourselves, but don't worry, I can take you there. I'll help you negotiate with the house you want to live in." Chapter 212, Dividing Rooms. Under the leadership of the village chief, the group quickly found a family willing to take them in. There's only an elderly couple living in this family, and there are 4 empty rooms in the house. The next step is to assign rooms. William's family is the largest, with 4 people in total, so they need at least 3 rooms. If they add one more group, they can just move into the empty room of Lu Wanping's brother. Wang Mingxiu only wanted to hang out with his William, so he suggested, "How about this? My sister and I will live with William in the house owned by the village chief's brother, and William and I will sleep in the same room." "But didn't brother William agree to team up with me? When we teamed up before, it all depended on drawing that little ball. It's already a pity that I didn't team up with brother William." As she spoke, she looked at Wang Mingxiu pitifully. "Brother Aksu, can you please give brother William to me? Please." If anyone tried to separate him and William, he would fight back without mercy. But this person happened to be his spoiled wife. Wang Mingxiu felt half of his body soften when he heard Guiao's sweet voice. He smiled foolishly and said, Okay, then you live with William, and my sister and I will live in the village chief's house." After hearing this, Wan Yidong was almost angry to death. But since her silly brother had already said so, she didn't know what to say. Fortunately, They have Master Ching Fu, so their safety is guaranteed. Although the other two groups also wanted to form a group with William, they were worried about offending the Master of Mysticism in their own team, so they didn't say much in the end. Anyway, they all lived not far from each other, so basically they could shout and the other party could hear them. So the houses that were finally divided were William's group and the Guiao sisters group. Wan Yidong and her brother and sister and Ching Fu live in the village chief's house. The Du Nying sisters and the Deng Anji brothers lived in the old couple's house with their respective masters. After the houses were divided, everyone returned to their own residences. On the way, Gu Jiao kept pestering William, wanting to talk to him more. William did not act too indifferent and dealt with it in a reasonable and orderly manner. Chun Yunyan watched as her brother smiled at everyone, but when it came to her, he didn't say a word. Don't mention how sad I feel. After Lu Onping led everyone to their residence, he said with a smile, I actually asked someone to do a simple cleanup of this house a few days ago, so it won't be too much trouble for you. Just do a simple cleanup. There are beddings and other things in every room. You could choose a room and clean it yourself. William didn't want to get involved in their room-dividing drama, so he watched for a while on the first floor and then went out to play with Wan Mingxiu. Anyway, he thought that Oscar had completely broken off relations with him, and he didn't pretend to make tea with him like before, so he probably wouldn't live with him. But things turned out to be exactly the opposite of what he thought. When he came back, Oscar was making the bed in the room with two beds on the first floor. Oscar heard footsteps, turned to look at William, and then smiled faintly. Master Xuanyu doesn't like living with others, so for the next 2 days, we can only share a room. William's eyes fell on Oscar's face, and after a while, he gently raised the corners of his mouth. Okay, whatever you want to arrange. Oscar didn't say anything more to William and continued to make the bed. But he had been spoiled since childhood, and after working on it for a long time, even though he was sweating, he still couldn't do the job well. On the other hand, after William took out the bedding from the cupboard, he started to work quickly. In less than 2 minutes, he had made the bed and was now putting on the quilt cover. Oscar glanced at him out of the corner of his eye and decided that he was just showing off on purpose, trying to outdo himself. You are so good at working, you must be born to be a nobody, he said silently in his heart, and then began to struggle with the quilt again. After a while, he finally gave up, walked to the camera in the room, and said with a smile, Can someone come to help me? I really can't handle this, it's too difficult. The director team. Dora looked at her precious son working on the show and said angrily, What's wrong with this show? Can't you just make the bed? And you let my son do it himself. Everyone. Where did this idiocy come from? Why do you come out to participate in the show when you don't even do such a small job? Originally, everyone thought it was quite funny to see Oscar acting cute and pitiful in front of the camera. Now when I hear what Dora said, I immediately think that this mother and son are a weird pair. Director Zhong Qing knew all the bloody stories about the Chun family, so he deliberately said, Annie, you can't say that. Variety shows are supposed to let guests experience life, and it's just making a bed. Look, didn't William do a good job? The implication is you, the adopted son, are a waste. When Dora heard this, she subconsciously glanced at William, who was now lying on the bed playing with his phone, and said angrily, This William would rather lie down and play with his phone than help his brother. He is really heartless. Everyone was too tired to complain and could only shake their heads silently. This is the first time they have seen such a weird thing. He hates his own son so much. And putting aside the relationship between William and Oscar, even if they are friends, there is no need for William to make the bed for Oscar, right? Who owes your precious adopted son anything? It's so hilarious. Just when they thought the matter was over and Dora was just expressing her dissatisfaction, who knew that in the next second, she would do something outrageous again. My son has never done anything like this at home. Can't you send someone to help him? She asked. Zhong Chung smiled and said, Annie, we are recording a show here. If Oscar needs help from others for such a small matter, people on the internet will laugh at him. You love your son so much, you don't want this to happen, right? Dora was speechless after hearing this. Oscar has said it many times at home, and now there are still many netizens on the internet scolding him and misunderstanding him. He came to the show this time to clear up these misunderstandings and let everyone see his true character. Thinking of this, she had to suppress the idea of going to help Oscar personally. Fortunately, at this time, Gu Jiao and her sister came down from the live broadcast screen. Gu Jiao's sister is named Gu Jingjing, and she is about the same age as Oscar. Seeing that Oscar couldn't even put on a quilt cover properly, she offered to help her. Gu Jiao walked up to William, chatted with him for a few words, and then said, "By the way, Brother William, do you like playing games? I recently accepted a game endorsement, and the game was officially launched today. It's so fun. During the internal test, I had a lot of fun playing every day. Do you want to try it?" Chapter 213 Chun, Lang's new game plagiarism. Sister Jiao, are you talking about the new game called Age of Heroes? Hearing Gu Jiao's words, Oscar interrupted with a smile. I'm playing that game too. It's too addictive. Really? Gu Jiao blinked, then looked at William. Brother William, have you played this game before? How about I play it with you? I'm really good at it. At this time, in an office in Tokyo, Chun Lang stared at the comments on the live broadcast screen on the tablet. Oh my god, this is the game my wife is playing? What's there to hesitate about? Just go for it. Brothers, don't pity your wife. Rush forward. What? My wife is endorsing a game? Everyone knows that my wife is not short of money. The only condition for her to accept the endorsement is that she also likes this product. So, my wife likes to play Heroic Age, and I also like to play Heroic Age. To round it off, my wife likes me. The stupid people are still posting comments here, but I, the smart one, have already downloaded it successfully. Brothers, I'm not a troll. I am telling you the truth. The playability of Age of Heroes is really high. If I lie to you, I will eat shit upside down. I've taken a screenshot of the brother who eats shit while standing upside down. If it's not fun, I'll do it for you myself. Chun Lang looked at the download data that kept climbing up in the background, and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. It was a great decision to hire this spokesperson, and this is all thanks to her good brother. Thinking of this, she picked up her phone and transferred another 2 million to Oscar's account, with a note, "Love you, baby brother." She put down her phone contentedly, but the next second, the smile on her face completely froze. Is it this game? The game is just SOSO, but it's seriously plagiarized. William on the live broadcast screen frowned slightly. The game page in his hand happened to be the login page of Age of Heroes. William, you bitch! Chun Lang gritted her teeth, her eyes full of anger. After that, she picked up the phone and dialed the internal number. Come over. The program recording location. Oscar's face froze when he heard what William said. Brother William, please don't make such jokes. We are live streaming. It would be terrible if it causes misunderstandings. William smiled faintly. Aren't you very clear whether it caused any misunderstanding? Oscar's face became even uglier. Damn it. What does this bastard want to do? Besides, what does he know? Oscar suddenly felt uneasy. At this moment, the phone in William's hand suddenly began to vibrate. He glanced at the strange number on the screen, and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. Are you losing your patience so soon? He just hung up. After a moment, the phone vibrated again. Hang up again. After a while, Gu Jiao's cell phone also rang. She answered the call, heard what the other party said, and then handed the phone to William. Brother William, looking for you. William had already guessed who the caller was. He raised his eyebrows slightly, took the phone, and turned on the speaker. Chun Lang. Chun Lang saw this scene on the live broadcast screen, and her face turned even darker with anger. She had finally managed to completely separate her current company from herself, and let her boyfriend Du Xiangfei become the legal representative and serve as the chairman, because she was afraid that her previous assault would affect the new company. As a result, this little beast actually exposed himself in front of the live camera. How could she not be angry? Du Xiangfei was also stunned and looked at Chun Lang in confusion. Chun Lang shook her head at him. Du Xiangfei coughed twice. William, I don't know who Chun Lang you were talking about. I am the founder and chairman of Feixiang Game Company. Du Xiangfei, you and Chun Lang haven't broken up yet? William chuckled. That's right, if you broke up, she wouldn't be so confident in pushing you to this position. After all, Feixiang Games is the new company she founded with great effort. William, I don't know what you were talking about, but your slander of our newly launched game, Heroic Age, in the live broadcast has an extremely bad impact on our company. On behalf of our company, I ask you to clarify this matter in the live broadcast immediately. Otherwise, our company will take legal measures to protect our legitimate rights and interests. Slander? William said with a mocking smile. Ask Chun Lang if this is slander or not. At this point, he paused and continued. By the way, please tell Chun Lang that I will also file a lawsuit against you for blatantly plagiarizing my intellectual property rights. Okay, that's it. You guys should prepare to defend yourself. After saying that, William hung up the phone neatly and returned the phone to Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao took the phone in a daze and didn't react for a long time. She glanced at Oscar and saw that he also looked confused, which made her even more confused. On the other side, Du Xiangfei, whose phone was hung up, looked at Chun laying helplessly. Seeing the latter's dark face, he said cautiously, "Baby, baby, he hung up my phone. I'm not blind. How could I not know that he hung up on you?" Chun Lang roared, the rage in her heart growing stronger and stronger, and she felt even more unhappy looking at the man in front of her, who was of no help. "Useless thing. Why are you still standing here? Get out of here and stop getting in my way." Okay, baby, don't be angry. I'll leave right away." After saying that, Du Xiangfei quickly turned around and left. The moment he closed Chun Lang's office door, his face turned gloomy. "You bitch. Why didn't you tell me to get out when I was giving you such a good time? Damn it. If it weren't for your little money, I wouldn't bother to serve you." In the office, Chun Lang stared at the content on the live broadcast barrage that was becoming increasingly unfavorable to her, her brows furrowed tighter and tighter. "Holy crap. Is Age of Heroes a plagiarism? I just started playing it in front of you. Don't believe everything you hear. William just said something, and then he said someone plagiarized. Isn't the cost of making up a rumor too low? Let me share a hot piece of knowledge with you. Chun Lang is the founder of the previous Lang game. She is also the unscrupulous capitalist who slapped the workers in the face when they disagreed with each other. So, do you still play this game? Oh my god, is this true? I don't dare to play anymore. What if Chun Lang suddenly pops out of the phone and slaps me in the face? I'm scared. I'll just uninstall it." "No, just because William said that. Do you believe that Feixiang Games is Chun Lang's new company? Do you have any evidence?" "Of course, bro. Check out Weibo. It's already trending. Chun Lang and Du Xiangfei's lips have never parted." When Chun Lang saw this comment, her face changed and she immediately opened Weibo. At this time, the top of the hot search list was hashtag William has started revenge again hashtag. When you click on it, you will see that it is all about William tearing Chun Lang apart. The second place is Jinghao Chunling Du Xiangfei Jinghao, which is full of intimate photos of her and Du Xiangfei. Her relationship with Du Xiangfei is obvious. Chun Lang was so angry that she was shaking all over. How could it be such a coincidence? As soon as William attacked her newly developed game and exposed her true relationship with Feixiang Game, her relationship with Du Xiangfei was revealed online. Suddenly, she thought of something, turned her head stiffly, and looked at the tablet computer beside her. On the screen, William didn't know whether it was a coincidence or intentional. His eyes were fixed on the live camera, and the corners of his lips were slightly raised. A face full of sneer. Chun Lang didn't know why, but she suddenly felt a chill. He was demonstrating to her. Chapter 214, What If William Died? Chun Lang clenched her hands tightly. Her sharp fingertips dug deeply into her palms, and the severe pain made her calm down. She thought for a moment, then picked up her phone and dialed the number. "Lawyer Zhang, please help me draft a statement letter and then sue William." She was halfway through her words when her partner Si Yuan rushed in. She frowned slightly, gave a few more instructions to the person on the other end of the phone, and then hung up. "Why are you here?" Chun Lang asked. Si Yuan said with a dark face. "Let me ask you, is the game plagiarism true or false?" Chun Lang said impatiently. "Don't you know me yet? How could I do something like plagiarism?" "You didn't? Then why did Qin Xian directly and publicly accuse you of plagiarism and say that he was already taking legal action? He even laid out the evidence." Chun Lang was stunned. "Qin Xian? Just check out Weibo." Chun Lang opened Weibo again and found that the two new terms had ranked 4th and 5th on Weibo's hot search list respectively. Hashtag Qin Xian's representative William sued Flying Games hashtag. Cancelletto eroichera plagiarism cancelletto. She clicked on the trending search about Qin Xian and took a look. Qin Xian bluntly stated that Age of Heroes borrowed William's game ideas, concepts, and even level and monster settings from 2 years ago without William's knowledge. He also posted relevant content from the game Age of Heroes and the electronic documents and screen designs that William wrote 2 years ago. She only looked at 2 pictures, then put down her phone, opened the safe at her feet, took out a thick stack of papers from it, and quickly flipped to the content she wanted to find. The more she looked, the paler her face became. How so? How could these things be made by a loser like William? Wasn't this what Oscar did before? How did William get these things? Her mind was racing, but she couldn't figure out why things were like this. Si Yuan said coldly. "Chun Lang, I know William is your biological brother, but I really took out tens of millions of dollars, not to play house games with you. Don't forget, we signed a gambling agreement. If this game fails, you have to pay me back double the tens of millions. If you can't handle this matter well, don't blame me for ignoring our old friendship." After saying that, he left angrily. Chun Lang didn't care about him at all at this moment. She quickly called Oscar. But Oscar was nowhere to be found. He was not on the live broadcast, and he didn't answer her calls. Her heart sank. An ominous premonition came over her, and she quickly called her assistant in. "Book me the nearest flight. I want to go to Yao Village." Yao Village. Oscar was in the yard without any cameras, holding his cell phone, his face pale. The Weibo post by Qin Xian was displayed on the mobile page. In fact, he had never played the game developed by Chun Lang. With so many things happening during this period, how could he have the time to play any game? So, he had no idea that Chun Lang's game used William S. previous things. Those things were what he stole from William S. room sporadically 2 years ago. In order to prevent William from finding out, he took photos every time he stole something, then copied it himself and put it back. But what he didn't know was that William at that time actually knew it a long time ago. He cared about this family so much and wanted to help Chun Lang so much that he didn't care how she helped him. What's more, he knew there was no point in caring. Even if he said that these things were all made by his hands, they were all the result of his hard work. The Chun family will only believe Oscar. Even if he has all the evidence, Oscar still has 100 reasons waiting for him. Even though those reasons may be full of mistakes, Oscar will still be trusted because of the Chun family's preference for him. At that time, he just wanted to stay in the Chun family safely. He always believed that as long as he lived with these people who were related to him by blood for a few more years and let them see his good side, they would share some of their love with him. So he just did this, one wrong step after another, until he ended up in that riot in the mental hospital. Oscar couldn't understand why William still had these so-called evidences. William S. computer after giving these things to Chun Lang, and he even smashed William S. computer to be on the safe side. But these things actually exist. In fact, he did destroy them. But when William printed them, he sent all the drawings and documents to the print shop via email, so these things have always been in his mailbox. After William was reborn, he had already retrieved all these things. But even if this is not the case, with William S. hacking skills, it would be easy for him to retrieve the manuscripts of these things. Oscar was filled with panic at this moment. He knew how important this new company and this game were to Chun Lang, so he didn't dare to think about what would happen to him if all this was ruined by his past lies. With Chun Lang's selfish character, what would she do to him? He had a vague feeling. He might lose another supporter in the Chun family. No, absolutely not. Thinking of this, a hint of cruelty suddenly flashed in his eyes. If William died? As long as William dies, the so-called plagiarism will be forgotten. The dead cannot speak and will not seek responsibility. At that time, the truth of the matter will depend entirely on him, a living person, to fabricate. Thinking of this, a hope ignited in his heart. He walked into the house and went straight to Xian Yu's room. "Master Xuan Yu, I need you to help me." Chapter 215. Dora makes a scene on the show. After William openly accused Chun Lang of plagiarizing her game, the popularity of the entire program soared instantly, and various hot searches appeared continuously. William S.'s character of picking fights in person when he disagrees with others and not tolerating anyone is really loved by the crowd. Of course, there are also some people who accuse William of being too violent and always treating his relatives as if he wanted to kill them, which is really a bit too much. Scolded back by the onlookers who wanted to watch the fun, or those who knew William's experience. Society has changed. No one likes the kind of saintly person who will forgive you even if you stab me. What they like is the kind of ruthless person who will grind you to dust if you stab him. Therefore, they hope that William would kill all the members of the Chun family as soon as possible. Don't let anyone go. The people in the program team now know who the Chun family is. In addition, for the sake of the popularity of the program, they even want to suspend the adventure and let William continue to fight. After all, what William said before obviously contained a lot of information. But there is one person on the program team who is eager to get the team to stop the live broadcast. That is Dora. "Director, I don't care about that. I just want you to stop the live broadcast right now." Dora's tone was very strong, as if everyone in the director team was her subordinate. Director Zhong Chung was actually annoyed with this woman who couldn't be driven away, but he put up with it because she was the mother of a guest on the show. Now he doesn't want to put up with it anymore. The investor of this program is the Zhou family, and the Zhou family obviously doesn't like the Chun family. Zhou Sinan even reminded him that no matter what, William was the most important person in the show. So, he would naturally not be scared by a small Chun family. But he is also a smart man and knows what to do to maximize benefits. Therefore, he did not choose to confront Dora head-on, but smiled with a hidden knife. Mrs. Chun, the live broadcast of this program has already begun. If we interrupt it now, the loss will be too great. I'm just an employee. Please don't make things difficult for me. No matter how much money you lose, I can afford to pay you back, Dora said nonchalantly. Quickly stop the live broadcast. William, that little bastard, is obviously talking nonsense and trying to drag the matter onto Oscar. You can't let him do this. The onlookers all felt their fists harden. Zhong Chung still smiled and said, Mrs. Chun, I know your Chun family is big and powerful, and you don't care about this little money, but this program was paid for by our CEO, Zhou, and it is an important project of the company this year. He pondered for a moment, then pretended to be embarrassed. How about this, Mrs. Chun? I'll call Mr. Zhou now, and you can talk to him directly. If he agrees to interrupt the live broadcast, I'll turn off the camera immediately. Dora's face froze. She knew how good the relationship between the Zhou family and that little beast William was now. Moreover, the Zhou family had previously publicly announced that they were irreconcilable with their Qin family. If she really went to find Zhou Sinan, given his attitude towards the Qin family, she was afraid that he would do something even more detrimental to Oscar. She pondered for a moment, then thought of a solution and said stubbornly, I have nothing to say to your President Zhou. How about this? I won't make things difficult for you. Since you don't agree to interrupt the live broadcast, I will let my son and daughter withdraw from the show. After saying that, she looked at Zhong Chung proudly. How can she record this crappy show without guests? She thought that she could control this young director by cutting off the source of the problem. But Zhong Chung still looked calm and composed. This is your freedom. We will follow the contract, pay the penalty, and then both parties will issue a joint announcement. How much is the penalty for breach of contract? I will pay it. The director looked at the producer, Lao Yang, and said, Lao Yang, how much is the penalty fee for a guest to withdraw from the program recording without reason? Each guest is worth 100 million. How much? Dora stood up suddenly and asked angrily, Why is it so high? Aren't you guys going too far? Mrs. Chun, we have confirmed this contract with the two Mr. Chins many times. They all know about it. Dora snorted coldly. Don't try to fool me with this kind of thing. I'm not some young girl who has never seen much of the world. Your crappy show has seriously affected the reputation of my son and daughter. I'm lucky I didn't ask for compensation. It doesn't matter, Mrs. Chun. In this kind of situation, each person has his own reasons. When the time comes, we will just let the law decide. Are you threatening me? Do you think I'm afraid? Our Chun Group's legal team is no pushover. Of course, Mrs. Chun, think it over carefully. If you have made up your mind to withdraw your children from the program recording, you can go and talk to them now. Dora was so angry that she couldn't speak for a long time, and finally snorted coldly. I'm going to call them now. After that, she returned to the car and started calling Oscar. Zhong Chung smiled and winked at the assistant director. Start collecting cell phones. Except for a few mystics, all the guests on the show gathered in the yard of the village chief's house. They were clearly divided into three camps. Brother Qi Xiangyang and Sister Gu Jiaojiao were chatting happily. William and Wan Yidong, brother and sister, and Dun Yin, sister, each holding a mobile phone and playing games. William, come on, come on. William, save me. I'm coming, Asu. Hold on for a while. I'll save Sister Dun Yin first. Their group was so lively and noisy that the atmosphere between Shun Yunyin and Oscar, a brother and sister who sat together but didn't even make eye contact, became even more awkward. William, who was having so much fun, and her heart was filled with loneliness and regret. If she had been nicer to William at the beginning, would she be one of the people who can sit and play games with William now? Just then, two staff members came over. Dear teachers, after we finish lunch, we will begin the official exploration process of this episode. Please leave your cell phones with me for safekeeping. Oscar subconsciously glanced at William. The staff member immediately walked over and said, Teachers, we are going to collect your cell phones soon. Please cooperate after you finish this round. Dun Yincher said without raising his head. Okay, you take them first. Our game will be over soon. The rest of the people turned off their phones and handed them directly to the staff. So when Dora called, she only heard the prompt tone the other party's phone is turned off. Chapter 216 William's game is popular all over the internet. A few minutes later, William and his friend's game also ended. William, this game is so fun, right? Why haven't I heard of it before? Is it a new game? Wang Mingshu asked. William nodded. Yes, it's a new game, just launched, and has not yet started large-scale promotion. Wan Yidong thought of the recent turmoil on the internet and suddenly realized something. Brother William, you didn't make this game, did you? William smiled faintly and said, That's not true. How could I possibly make such a large-scale game by myself? There must be a whole team involved. Wan Yitong patted his shoulder and said, You are really amazing. You can make such an amazing game. I have a feeling that this game will definitely be the most amazing game in recent years. Right. Wan Mingxiu echoed. William, your game is simply amazing. I have never played such a fun game. It will definitely be popular all over the world. As he said this, he looked towards the camera and said, Brothers, the game we just played is called Glory War. It's really fun. I also played the previous plagiarized game twice, but it was boring. This one is far better than it. Go play it. If it's not fun, I'll pay you. It's true, it's really fun. Wan Yitong also said, Dear audience, I assure you with my artistic ethics over the years that Glory War is really awesome. Dun Yin said with a smile. If I didn't have to put away my phone for the show, I could play all day long. Oh, I don't want to record the show. I just want to play games. Haha. Imperial Capital. Zhou family. Zhou Sinan, who was watching the live broadcast with Mr. Zhou, sent a message to his assistant after seeing this scene. Let's get started. A few minutes later, almost all the popular stars in the entertainment industry began to recommend the game Honor of Kings on Weibo. The official Weibo accounts of all branches under Zhou, Han, and Qin simultaneously posted on Weibo to recommend Battle of Glory. The family heads, or business founders in the capital's business community, who were often listed on various wealth lists, also followed suit, and some companies even started holding lotteries. Soon after, those famous rich second generations also followed the trend of recommending Glory of War under the coercion and inducement of their elders. Of course, there are also some people whose recommendations are completely from the heart. William at the auction also launched Weibo accounts and launched one lucky draw after another. The entire internet was stunned. What's going on? It's just a game. Why does it feel like the entire entertainment and business circles have been alarmed? Out of curiosity, they also started downloading it, and then exclaimed that it was really good. As a result, wave after wave of tap water publicity came. Also the game conference room. At the conference table, Zhao Yongyan and a group of company executives were staring at the images on the big screen, all in a daze. At this time, the download data of Glory War is soaring at a terrifying rate. This game has swept the entire internet with explosive popularity. I don't know who it was, but he suddenly swallowed. Boss Zhao, how did you manage to get so many bigwigs and celebrities to help us promote our product? Zhao Yongyan a long time to come back to his senses. Before the game was officially launched, he was too nervous and kept complaining to William about the difficulty in promoting the game. He even asked William to find a spokesperson several times, but William did not agree. He just told him not to worry and that he would take care of the promotion. He thought William would spend money to create some fanfare, but he never expected that he could create such a big fuss. Moreover, this level of publicity is not something that can be achieved simply by having money. William's energy is ridiculously strong. For the millionth time, he felt that his decision to accept William's invitation was a wise one. William is simply his god of wealth. Haha, he suddenly laughed. Okay, our big boss has already done this much for our game. Now it's up to us. We are still far from reaching the download peak. Everyone go back and prepare, and make sure to maintain the server for me. After this wave is over, we will be able to gain a firm foothold in the industry, and then everyone will get a share of the bonus. Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but cheer. He then quickly left the meeting room and returned to his work. Imperial International Airport. As soon as Chun Lang and Du Xiangfei entered the terminal hall, she received a call from her assistant, and her face suddenly changed. She opened Weibo and saw the overwhelming publicity for Honor of Kings. Only then did she understand why William wanted to slander her game in public. It turns out that they have become competitors now. Haha, he's indeed a person who grew up in poverty and bad water. Even if he gets out, he still can't change his despicable nature. William, I won't let you go. Her eyes were filled with overwhelming hatred. Yao Village. After listening to everyone's words, Oscar realized that William had made a game himself. He gritted his teeth and managed not to lose his composure on the spot. This bastard actually made a game quietly? No wonder he said in public that Chun Lang's game was plagiarized from him. It turns out it's because they are now competitors. His game can only succeed if he crushes Chun Lang. Oscar wanted to say something at this time to make things more difficult for William. But reason told him not to confront William head-on anymore. William is no longer the country bumpkin who allowed himself to be manipulated by him. Although he still hasn't figured out why William suddenly changed so much, the fact is that he can't beat him openly now. But so what? This bastard is destined to never leave this village. Thinking of this, he felt a secret pleasure in his heart. In a flash, an idea suddenly popped into his mind. If William died, what about the game he made? And what about his villa? He can live in such a nice villa and drive such a nice car, so he must have a lot of money, right? Who will own these inheritances of his? He is the biological son of the Chun family and has no other relatives in this world. In the end, these things can only be delivered to the Chun family. Now David has to rely on him, and Dora obeys him as always. So, William worked so hard, but in the end he was probably just making things easier for himself. Thinking of this, the jealousy and hatred that had arisen in his heart disappeared completely. He was looking forward to the next adventure. Chapter 217. Dora threatens William during live broadcast. Although the program team stipulated that the guests have to rely on themselves for everything in the village during these days. But since they had just arrived today and didn't have time to prepare lunch, the village chief generously treated them to lunch. Originally, they wanted to take advantage of the lunchtime to ask the village chief about the situation in the village. But at the request of the program team, the village chief did not even eat at the same table with them. In other words, if they want to understand the village, they can only find a way on their own. After finishing their meal, when they were about to go out to find the villagers to find out what was going on, they saw Dora standing in a place that the camera couldn't reach. "Mom, why are you here?" Oscar quickly turned off the microphone hanging on his chest and walked over. "Didn't I ask you to go back to the hotel and rest first?" "Son, hurry up and go back to pack your things." Dora took Oscar's hand and was about to take him away. "We won't record this show anymore. Mom will take you home." Oscar stood still, frowning slightly. "Mom, what are you talking about? Why don't you record it for no reason?" "Mom saw it all on the live broadcast. William is being naughty again and throwing dirty water on you. This little beast is too cunning. Mom is worried that you will suffer and be scolded again." Dora looked at Oscar with a distressed look on her face. "Oscar, don't be afraid. Mom will take care of the penalty for breach of contract. Just go home with Mom in peace." Oscar suppressed his impatience and soothed her. "Mom, don't let your imagination run wild. Let's go back to the hotel. I have to go back to record the show." "Why are you still recording a show? This whole show was created by the Zhou family. Haven't you figured it out? They are in the same group as William, helping him bully our Chun family. Otherwise, why do people only play with William and not with you?" Seeing that everyone had come out of the house and were ready to leave, Oscar hurriedly pulled Dora to the corner. "Mom, stop imagining this. This is nothing. I've said before that I came to this show to clear up everyone's misunderstandings about me. You don't want me to be cursed for the rest of my life, do you?" Oscar's tone was a little more impatient and firm. "I will not quit the show, and don't come to see me again in the next 2 days." Dora was angry and helpless when she heard this. "Why are you so stubborn, kid? There are many ways to clear your name. Why do you have to choose such a difficult way?" "Mom, I'm going to be an adult soon. I have my own ideas. If you push me again, I'm going to be really angry." Dora saw that Oscar was obviously unhappy and panicked and said hurriedly, Okay. Mom won't force you, okay? If you want to record it, then record it." Oscar laughed immediately. "That's right, Mom. You have to believe in your son's ability. I'm not that easy to be bullied. Besides, even if someone really wants to harm me, as long as I act upright, they won't succeed." Dora looked at the bright smile on Oscar's face and started smiling too. Yes, my son is right. Okay, go back and continue recording the show? Okay, then you go back first. I'll call you later if I have time." "Good." Dora smiled and nodded, and when she saw William and his group coming out of the yard, she hurriedly called out, "William!" Everyone stopped and looked at Dora. "Mom, what do you want to do now?" Oscar's expression suddenly changed. Dora smiled kindly. "It's okay. Mom knows what's going on and will definitely not cause you any trouble. Mom is just going to chat with him for a few minutes. You go back first." Then she looked at William again. "William, come here. I have something to tell you." William raised his eyebrows slightly, feeling a little confused. What does this crazy woman want to do? "Brother William, don't pay attention to her." Chun Yun suddenly grabbed William's arm. William was slightly stunned, then looked down at Chun Yun's hand, his eyes full of disgust, and pulled his arm away. Chun Yun felt a pain in her heart. She obviously wanted to help him. She was doing it for his own good. Why treat her like this in front of the camera? William walked up to Dora, who looked at him coldly. William, I'm warning you. I will be with you throughout the recording of this show. If you dare to bully your brother, I won't let you go, Dora said ferociously. William smiled faintly. Mrs. Chun, your fourth daughter has worked so hard to build a game company, but now we don't know whether it can be kept. You still only have your adopted son in your heart. To be honest, is there something wrong with you? As he said this, William tapped his temple. Dora was so angry. Stop talking nonsense here. If you hadn't been doing something behind the scenes, how could your fourth sister's company have problems? Now you want to put the blame on your brother. You are so vicious. Right and wrong are self-determined. Mrs. Chun, if you have time to threaten me here, why not ask your good adopted son to do less evil? Having said that, William raised his hand to turn off the radio on his body and sneered. Oh, I forgot to tell you that my microphone is still on. The audience in the live broadcast room should have heard your threats just now. Dora, what do you think of you when they hear you threaten your biological son for your adopted son? But I don't think you would care. After all, you have long been a laughing stock of the whole nation. Remember to open the comments later and see how those strangers to you and me are scolding you and your adopted son. After saying this, William turned and left. Dora felt a little uneasy and quickly turned on her phone and went into the live broadcast room to take a look. Fuck, this old woman is too mean, isn't she? Did William kill her whole family in his previous life? To be treated like this by her, damn, I really want to rush into the screen and slap her twice. This old woman and her adopted son are the same character, disgusting to the extreme. Really, lock them up and stop them from causing trouble for others. Is Oscar really her adopted son? Why do I feel that Oscar is her biological son? And William is not even an adopted son. At most, he is the nanny's son. Family members, we have found out that this old woman was the only daughter of the Heath family of the Heath group. She has 2 older brothers. It is said that she was spoiled since she was a child and is very arrogant and domineering. Family members, do you know what to do? We have one more target to boycott. The whole group. How dare you plot against me, you little bastard. Dora was so angry that her face turned blue. She wanted to find William, the unfilial son, to settle the score right away. But the next second, she received a call from her eldest brother on her cell phone. She panicked and quickly hung up the call. Then her second brother called again. She knew that if she answered the phone now, she would definitely be scolded, so she simply turned off the phone. The same thing happened to the Chun family last time. William schemed to cause the stock price to plummet, and David was so angry that he almost divorced her. She thought of the insults directed at herself and the Heath family in the barrage, and knew that this problem could not be delayed any longer and must be resolved as soon as possible. So he turned around and walked quickly towards the director team at the entrance of the village. Chapter 2, 18 Chaos in the Heath family. Imperial Capital. Chun Group. David, who was watching the show, suddenly received a call from Dora's elder brother, Heung-wee. Brother, why do you have time to call me at this time? Brother-in-law, where are you now? I'm at the company. You didn't go to that damn show with Dora? No, my company is so busy. How can I spare the time to get involved in the entertainment industry? What's wrong? Did something happen? Isn't this the result of a quarrel between Dora and my nephew? Now, even the Heath family has been affected. Brother-in-law, you should take care of her. If she continues to make trouble, both of our families will be ruined by her. What's so good about your adopted son? He made my sister feel like she was possessed by evil spirits. Brother, Oscar is a good kid. Don't say that. David pretended to be angry. Okay, brother, I have a meeting here, so I won't talk to you for now. After that, David hung up the phone. Then he looked at the muted screen on the tablet. Oscar's face appeared on the screen. The corners of David's mouth slowly curled up into a sneer. Keep making a fuss. Make a fuss. Ho Group. Chairman's office. Dad, what's going on? Heung-hue's son, he asked anxiously when he saw his father's face looked very ugly after he put down his phone. Heung-wee said angrily, "They are crazy. This couple is really crazy. They don't care about their own son, but treat a bastard who came from nowhere as a treasure. What kind of magic potion did Oscar feed them?" Heung-shing snorted coldly. What kind of magic potion? I don't know how that kid hooked up with the evil spirit of the Rong family and became the adopted son of the Rong family. Now the Chun family is about to soar to the sky. Heung-wee was even more angry. The Chun family is getting better, so are they just going to watch our family collapse? Did the Heath family raise Dora for nothing for so many years? Besides, with Oscar's restless personality, even if he gets married to the Rong family, who knows what will happen to the Chun family in the future? He just sighed. After all, this matter was just a family affair of my aunt's family, and we couldn't interfere too much, but now it has affected our family. So we can't just sit back and do nothing about it. He only pondered for a moment, then nodded. Indeed, our family has been going downhill in recent years. If we let your aunt continue to affect us, our He family's business will be ruined. Ajay, book me the nearest flight to Yao. If your aunt doesn't answer my call, I will go to Yao village to find her in person. I must find out today what Oscar is capable of to coax your aunt into a brainless person. No, Death. The company has suddenly encountered such a big public opinion crisis. You can't be here without me. Let me go find my aunt. Yao village. Why do you broadcast content about me without my consent? Dora stood in front of Zhong Chung with her hands on her hips and said angrily, Am I your guest? Did you give me a penny? Do you know what a bad influence your actions will bring to me? I tell you, if you don't solve this problem for me today, I will find a lawyer to sue you to death. Zhong Chung held a cigarette in his mouth and said with a half smile, Mrs. Chun, are you kidding me? We were filming our guests normally, and you went over and called away the guests we paid a lot of money to invite without our consent, affecting our filming. It's good enough that we didn't hold you responsible, but you still came to cause trouble for us. Don't you think you're going too far? Also, take a closer look. From beginning to end, none of our staff filmed you. We only filmed William. If you feel that this infringes on your rights, then go ahead and sue us. I don't believe that the laws of China can help you to make trouble here. Dora was so angry that she felt dizzy after hearing this. She covered her chest and felt a little breathless. Zhong Chung panicked when he saw this. He won't make people angry to death, right? He quickly winked at a young female assistant beside him, and the female assistant rushed forward to support Dora. Mrs. Chun, please don't be anxious. Sit down for a while and calm down. Dora was angry and shook her hand away. Get away! Don't touch me with your dirty hands. The female assistant had just graduated and had never encountered such a thing. She staggered, and her eyes instantly turned red. Seeing this, Zhong Cheng's face darkened, and he immediately stopped paying attention to her and asked the female assistant to go and rest aside. After a while, Dora recovered and realized that intimidation was no longer effective, so she immediately changed her strategy. I don't want to make things too ugly, so how about this? Don't you have scripts for variety shows? You can make an announcement and say that what happened just now was just your script. Everything that happened just now was a script. Zhong Chung sneered. Sure, we are willing to cooperate. Dora finally breathed a sigh of relief. As long as the production team came out and said that this was all just a script, the matter should be suppressed. But who would have thought that the next second? Zhong Chung added, As long as you can convince William to make this announcement with me, it will be fine. What does this have to do with William? Can't you just issue this announcement? Of course not. You are William's biological mother, and you know his personality best. If we make this announcement without telling William, and William comes out and says he didn't know about the script at all, what will our production team do? Dora's expression instantly turned ugly, and she pointed at Zhong Chung and said angrily, You are not going to solve this problem at all, are you? Zhong Chung didn't say anything, didn't even look at Dora, and sat back in his seat. Dora glared at him angrily, thinking about how to solve the problem at hand. There was no other solution except to persuade William. For the sake of the Heath family, she could bow her head. But that little beast William is so unfilial now, let alone her bowing her head. It would be useless even if she kneeled down. Thinking of this, she became even angrier and turned away angrily. Zhong Chung looked at his back with a sarcastic smile on his face. Idiot. The assistant director laughed and said, Director, your guess was right. After Oscar's phone was taken away, she couldn't contact her son, so she went to look for him. Her fuss has increased the popularity of our show again. Zhong Chung looked at William's face on the machine and sighed softly. This child is such a hard life having to deal with such a family. Chapter 219, Chen Yunyun's guilt begins to waver. According to the requirements of the program team, 5 families and their leading masters need to separately find out the reasons why Yao village has changed from a prosperous village to its current poverty and decline. So, after the guests came out of the village chief's house, they went their separate ways and embarked on their own journey of exploration. William followed Chen Yunyun's group with a calm expression, not saying a word, just following silently at the back of the team. Oscar and Xianyu walked in the front. They occasionally said a few words to each other, but they looked very distant, as if they only met through this show. Chun Yunyan walked in the middle. She didn't want to pay attention to the person in front of her, and she didn't dare to pay attention to the person behind her. After all, William didn't even give any face in front of the live camera. Moreover, Fiona had already knelt down before him, but he did not show any mercy. If he continued to stick close to her, he would only bring humiliation upon himself. To be honest, she still felt guilty towards William. But now, the guilt in her heart began to waver. Although she was also wrong in the past, wasn't she innocent after all? She is also a victim of Oscar's deception. She and William are obviously biological siblings who came out of the same womb and are connected by blood. In a relationship like this, even if there have been some disagreements in the past, what's the problem with that? Besides, is it really all her fault that things have come to this point? Is it true that William himself has done nothing wrong? Since he is so capable, why didn't he expose Oscar's true identity when he was at Chin's house before? At this moment, she had long forgotten how William explained it again and again in the beginning. But each time, he ended up with a beating or other punishment. She just felt that William could have shown his excellence and ability from the beginning, but he chose to hide it. If everyone knew from the beginning that he was not the trash that Oscar said he was, how could she treat him like this? How did things come to this point? Thinking of this, Chun Yunyan began to feel resentful towards William. Third sister, there's a house in front. Let's go over and take a look. Oscar suddenly stopped and turned to look at Chun Yunyan. All is fine. Chun Yunyan replied absent-mindedly. Oscar looked at William again. Brother William, what do you think? William completely ignored him and pretended not to hear. Oscar saw this and said no more, looking away with a normal expression. Master Xuan Yu, let's go. After saying that, the few of them walked toward the house not far away. The family's house was an ordinary two-story red brick house. Several pieces of glass on the second-floor windows were broken and had not been repaired. Even the yard was just surrounded by a row of bamboo. The clothes hanging on the clothesline in the yard were covered with patches, showing how poor the family's life was. When the four of them walked to the gate of the courtyard, they saw an old man sitting on a chair smoking. He looked into the distance, his brows furrowed, and he looked gloomy. The old lady next to him was holding a needle in one hand and thread in the other, trying hard to thread the thread into the needle. But there must be something wrong with her eyes, as she couldn't put them on successfully after a long time. Grandpa, Grandma. Oscar was the first to walk to the gate of the yard and shouted inside. The old lady heard the voice, looked up, and after seeing the four people, she put down the things in her hands, stood up, and walked over with unsteady steps. Young man, what's wrong with you? Oscar had a well-behaved smile on his face. Grandma, we are here to record a show. Can I ask you something? The old lady thought about it and looked back at her husband. Seeing his wife nodded, he opened the door and welcomed her in. Then she went into the house and brought out two benches. Oscar pulled one of them over to the old couple, sat down, and began to chat with them. The old man didn't say much, just smoked miserably. The old lady was talking to Oscar while threading the needle, but she couldn't get it right for a long time. Chun Yunyan didn't want to sit on the same bench with Oscar, so she sat down next to Xianyu. Xianyu smiled at her. Chun Yunyan looked at his handsome face and was suddenly stunned. The first time she met Xianyu was in the hospital. At that time, Xianyu's face was distorted with pain due to the ghost energy invading his body, and she couldn't even see what he looked like. When they met again on the show today, she was so focused on how to make William forgive him that she didn't pay much attention to Xianyu. Now that she was suddenly looking at Xianyu from such a close distance, she realized that Xianyu had a really good-looking face. Although he was nothing special in the entertainment industry, he had an elegant and mysterious temperament. It makes people unconsciously want to get closer. Seeing Chun Yunyan staring at him in a daze, Xianyu smiled slightly and said in a low voice, "What's wrong? Miss Chun, is there something on my face?" No. Chun Yunyan's fair cheeks instantly turned pink, and she quickly turned her head away. Xianyu looked at her fluttering eyelashes, and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. The daughter of the Chun family looks really attractive. Grandma, I heard that your Yao village used to have a good life with thousands of people. How come there are only a few people left now? What happened here? When the old lady heard this, she trembled slightly, and the embroidery needle in her hand fell into the basket. The basket was full of rags, and she couldn't see the needle, so she could only feel around. Then she hissed and quickly took out her hand to take a look, only to see a drop of blood on the thumb of her right hand. Grandma, are you okay? Oscar asked in surprise. It's okay. As soon as the old lady opened her mouth, a napkin appeared in front of her. She looked up in confusion and saw another boy holding a napkin and smiling at her faintly. The old lady was stunned for a moment and suddenly felt a warmth inexplicably, and then subconsciously took the napkin. "Thank you, child." William smiled, said nothing, sat down on the bench, then took the small basket from the old lady's legs, quickly took out the needle from it, picked up the thread that the old lady had not threaded before, threaded the needle and thread, and then returned it to the old lady. The old lady took the needle and thread and laughed. "Thank you so much, kid. You young people have good eyes. You put your clothes on in no time. Unlike me, I tried for a long time, but still couldn't get them on. I can only thread a needle," William said with a smile. "Unlike you, Grandma, who can also do needlework. You are such a sweet kid." The old lady was in high spirits, completely free of the distance she had felt towards Oscar before. Oscar gritted his teeth in anger. This bastard only knows how to play tricks like this. "Old woman, go see if the water is ready and make me a cup of tea." The old man, who had been silent, suddenly spoke up. William glanced at the old man, his eyes slightly fixed. The old man looked at Oscar and asked, "What did you ask?" Chapter 220, Love Begins. Oscar was slightly stunned, and then suddenly realized something. The old man must have been fed up with William's pretentious attitude, so he sent the old woman away. "Grandpa," he said with a smug look on his face, "I was just asking. Your village used to be so big and so prosperous. How did it become like this now? Where are the people in your village?" "Some died, and the rest are gone." "Dead?" "Well, more than a dozen people died. They were all captured by ghosts. We haven't even seen their bodies." Oscar took a deep breath. More than a dozen people were taken away by ghosts? Is there a ghost here too? He subconsciously turned around and looked at Shinu. The old man suddenly stood up, accidentally moving the bamboo stool under him. The bamboo stool fell to the ground with a bang. Chun Yun was already frightened by the old man's words and couldn't help but think of the evil ghost in the previous episode. Now she was even more frightened by the sudden loud noise. She screamed, lost her sitting position, and fell backwards. "Careful!" Shinu was quick to move and put his arms around Chun Yun's slender waist. A refreshing scent of men's perfume unexpectedly entered Chun Yun's nostrils. Chun Yun looked at Shinyu's handsome face, which was so close to her, and her heart suddenly skipped a beat. "Are you okay?" Shinu asked. Chun Yun shook her head blankly. Shinu exerted a little force with his palms and helped her up. "Hold on tight," he whispered. "You guys go now," the old man said calmly. "We've told you everything we know. I'm sleepy, and I'm going to go back for a nap. I heard you guys are here to explore, and some of you can even catch ghosts. If you're not afraid, you can go to the back mountain in the middle of the night to take a look." After saying that, the old man turned around and went back into the house and closed the door. Oscar looked at the closed door and turned back to look at Shinu. "Master, what should we do now? Didn't the old man tell you everything? He has already told you everything he knows. Let's go and stop disturbing others." After Shinu finished speaking, he turned and left. Oscar quickly followed. Chun Yun looked at Shinyu's tall and majestic back and followed him. William looked back at the house and found the old lady standing by the window looking at him and mouthing something to him implicitly. "Go!" Then the old man walked over quickly, glared at the old lady, pulled the old lady away, and quickly closed the curtains. William sighed and walked away. As soon as Chun Yun walked out of the yard, she felt a gaze coming from her. She turned her head and saw a man with messy hair standing behind a tree with a hint of viciousness in his eyes. This person was the crazy old woman who splashed water at them when they first entered the village. Chun Yun was frightened by her terrifying eyes and subconsciously trotted 2 steps to Shinu. "What's wrong?" Shinu turned his head and asked gently and concernedly. Chun Yun pulled his sleeve and pointed behind him. Shinu turned his head and saw the crazy old woman and chuckled. "It's okay. She's just an old lady with some mental problems. I'm here." When Chun Yun heard Shinu's low voice, for some reason, the uneasiness in her heart seemed to be dispelled little by little. "Thank you, Master Xuanyu." William also saw the crazy old woman when he came out. Without even thinking, he walked straight towards the other person. "Grandma, why are you following us all the time?" he asked with a smile. The crazy old woman said viciously, "Get out. All of you don't come to our village. What if I don't leave?" The smile on William's face deepened a little. The crazy old woman seemed to be angry. She glared at William for a while, then bent down, picked up a stone on the ground, and threw it at William. "Get out!" There's a ghost here. You evil ghost. Get out of our village, or I'll smash you to death. William dodged the stones thrown by the crazy old woman with a calm expression. Grandma, I'm very powerful. I can help you catch the ghost. Then, maybe you can live a normal life. Get out, all of you, or I'll call the devil to eat you. Alas, William sighed softly. Forget it if that's the case, I'll just do it reluctantly, but I can give you another chance. If you think it through and stop pretending to be crazy, you can come find me. I live in the home of the village chief's brother. The crazy old woman was startled when she heard this, then immediately returned to her ferocious expression. William sighed and turned away. Get out, the ghost is coming, get out quickly. The crazy old woman looked at William's back, then turned and walked in the opposite direction from him, still muttering to herself, sometimes crying and sometimes laughing. Not long after, she returned to the dilapidated home. After closing the door, the only source of light in the room disappeared, and the whole room fell into darkness. With a snap, the dim light came on, and the previous madness on her face was no longer there, replaced by deep sadness. She walked to the wall and saw the portraits of an old man and 3 middle-aged men hanging on the wall, and tears welled up in her eyes. When William returned to his temporary residence, the other groups had already returned and were gathering in the yard of the village chief's younger brother to exchange their harvests. As soon as Wan Mingshu saw him, he went up to him. William, are you back? William nodded. How is it? What did you gain? Wan Mingshu briefly recounted what they had learned, which was similar to the information he had just obtained from the old man. So if you want to know if there are ghosts in this village, you have to go to the back mountain at night. Yes, William, we have already agreed to go up the mountain together tonight. William smiled and said, You're going too? Aren't you afraid? Wan Mingshu's face froze. How can I not be afraid? I have already asked if the masters can go up by themselves, but my sister said that if the masters leave, it will be even more unsafe for me to stay here alone, so I can only follow them up the mountain. Wan Mingshu suddenly lowered his voice and added, And I thought about it. With you here, William, I don't need to be afraid. Anyway, we are all going to act together tonight, so I will just follow you when the time comes. William didn't say anything. He looked at everyone present and found that Chun Yunyun was not there. Where's Chun Yunyun? Where did she go? Wan Mingshu thought for a moment and said, She should go back to her room. I noticed that she looked a little strange after she came back. I guess she was worried that it would be the same as last time. What about Shinu? William asked again. Wan Mingshu turned his head and looked at him blankly. Hey, wasn't he still here just now? But he went to the toilet, right? Second floor. When Chun Yunyun heard the knock on the door, she saw Shinu at the door, her eyes full of surprise. Master Xuanyu, do you have something to talk to me about? Chapter 221, Stealing Luck? Shinu smiled faintly and glanced at the video equipment in her room. Chun Yunyun explained, I have turned off the camera. Shinu nodded. I came to see you. On the way back, I saw that your face seemed a little off. How are you? Are you okay? After hearing this, Chun Yunyun felt a warm feeling in her heart and welcomed the person in. I'm fine. Thank you, Master. You don't have to call me Master. Shinu closed the door and chuckled softly. His dark eyes stared at Chun Yunyun. Just call me Shinu. After all, I'm also a fan of Teacher Chun. Chun Yunyun was startled when she heard this. Are you my fan? Of course, Miss Chun is beautiful, has a good personality, and has great acting skills. I have been following you since you first entered the industry. My favorite is the one you played. Chun Yunyun's cheeks quickly turned red, but soon, her heart sank, her eyes turned red, and she smiled bitterly. That was in the past, right? My reputation is ruined now. I've become a pariah. Even if I don't watch it, I know how many people are scolding me in the live broadcast room right now. As he spoke, 2 lines of tears rolled down his cheeks. Shinu frowned slightly and raised his hand to wipe away the tears from her face. Don't cry. Yunyun, there's no need to cry for those who are not worthy. They're all being used by people with ulterior motives. You have to believe that there are still many fans who have watched you along the way and truly like you, waiting for you to stand up again. By then, you will know that everything now is just a passing cloud. Chun Yunyun keenly grasped the key point of his words. Being used by someone with ulterior motives? What does that mean? Xian Yu's face darkened slightly. Yunyun, if I'm not mistaken, someone must have stolen your luck. Steal my luck? Xian Yu nodded solemnly. Yunyun, you are simple-minded and don't know much about metaphysics, so you don't understand many things, let alone the terribleness of this world. You should know that there are many people with bad intentions in this world. They may be able to change a person's life with just a flick of their fingers. And now you are the innocent person whose life has been maliciously changed. Chun Yunyun was filled with panic when she heard this. What do you mean? My life has been changed maliciously? Yes, I am a mystic who can see through the lives of most people in this world through their faces. When I first fell in love with you, your face told me that you should have made great strides and left a strong mark in the entertainment industry. Eventually, you became a legendary actress. But now, your career path has been ruthlessly cut off. If nothing is done, your star journey will end here. Chun Yunyun's face suddenly changed, and she hurriedly grabbed Xian Yu's arm. Master, what should I do now? Who wants to hurt me like this? A hint of a successful smile flashed in Xian Yu's eyes, and then he gently patted Chun Yunyun's hand. Don't be afraid, Yunyun. I will help you. He paused and smiled shyly. You may not believe it, but I came to this show just for you. For me? You don't believe it either? Xian Yu laughed at himself. To be honest, I can't believe it either. At my age, I still act like a young boy. In fact, your brother did kneel at the door of my house in Country Tea for a long time. It's just that I was in seclusion in China at that time and didn't know about it. The men I left there were ignorant and cheated him. After I came out of seclusion, I found out about it, so I punished them severely. I knew this was my best chance to get to know you, so I immediately asked him to return to the country to help your mother get rid of the evil spirit. However, I was careless at that time and was ambushed. Chun Yunyun looked at Xian Yu's face full of guilt and regret, and her heart was deeply moved. Then, why didn't you tell me then? Xian Yu smiled bitterly. I was so embarrassed at that time. I wished you hadn't shown up at all, so as not to leave such a bad impression on you. And I didn't know at that time that you would have such a deep gap with your brother and your mother. Under such circumstances, I knew you wouldn't believe anything I said, so I had to chase you here. Having said that, he gently took Chun Yunyun's hand and looked into her eyes lovingly. Yunyun, can you give me a chance? Let me protect you. I really like you. I have liked you for many years. Chun Yunyun looked at Xian Yu's eyes full of affection and felt her heart skip a beat. Her mind suddenly went blank, and she let the primitive impulse control her. She stood on tiptoe and kissed Xian Yu's lips. Xian Yu was stunned for a moment, then suddenly reached out and hugged her. Then, dense kisses came down like a torrential rain. Xian Yu put his arm around Chun Yunyun's slender waist, and the next second, Chun Yunyun felt that her whole body was suddenly lifted up by someone. Then the world spun around, and she was pinned down by Xian Yu. By the way, Xian Yu, you said before that someone stole my fortune. Who is so evil? The blush on Chun Yunyun's face had not yet faded. She lay in Xian Yu's arms like a little bird, looking up at him. Xian Yu took a puff of cigarette and was silent for a moment. As an outsider, it's not easy for me to talk about these things. If I talk too much, it will become provocation. He gently patted the woman's arm in his arms. If you really want to know who this person is, you might as well think about who around you has suddenly soared in fortune. Chun Yunyun pondered for a moment, and then her eyes suddenly turned cold. William. Xian Yu looked down at Chun Yunyun, sighed softly, and then kissed her on the forehead with a look of heartache. Baby, don't be sad. Don't worry. Since you have given yourself to me, I will help you with this matter. Chun Yunyun was so moved that she burst into tears. My dear, you are so kind to me. I only regret that I didn't meet you earlier. Xian Yu smiled gently. It's not too late now. Chun Yunyun nodded happily. By the way, Xian Yu seemed to have suddenly thought of something. Why don't you have a good talk with Oscar? That child is actually quite innocent. Chapter 222, Chun Yunyun and Oscar Reconciliation. After Xian Yu left, Chun Yunyun lay in bed for a while to reminisce about the past before getting up from the bed with her sore back and weak legs. She tidied herself up briefly and then sat at the dressing table to put on makeup. She had never met a man like Xian Yu, and she had never been obsessed with any man as much as she was with him. Therefore, she hoped that she would always look her most beautiful in front of Xian Yu. She sat in front of the mirror and looked at herself carefully. The more she looked, the more strange it seemed to her. Why do you look so bad? Then, she thought of the madness just now and smiled shyly. This man is so scary. She shook her head, threw all those exciting images out of her mind, and began to put on makeup carefully. Soon, a radiant woman walked out of the room. As soon as she went downstairs, she met Xian Yu coming out of the room. Master, she winked at him cryptically, her voice sounding like a hook. Xian Yu smiled faintly, and when she passed by, he avoided the camera and gently patted her buttocks wrapped in tight jeans. Chun Yunyun's cheeks instantly flushed, and she turned around and glared at her. This was the first time she had such contact with a man in the workplace, and she couldn't help feeling a little excited. She walked into the yard and saw Oscar sitting alone in the corner, his back revealing a sense of loneliness. Thinking of what Xianyu had said to her before, her heart ached. She was really stupid. She actually pushed her brother, who had been well-behaved and obedient since childhood, to this point just because of a misunderstanding. Brother! Chun Yunyan walked behind Oscar and touched his head. Oscar was stunned for a moment, turned around, and looked at Chun Yunyan in disbelief. Third sister. Be good. Chun Yunyan had a gentle smile on her face. Oscar burst into tears, stretched out his hands, hugged Chun Yunyan's waist, and said in a sobbing voice, Third sister, I thought you didn't want me to come anymore. I'm sorry. Chun Yunyan choked up. It's all third sister's fault. Third sister misunderstood you. The scene of the brother and sister's century-long reconciliation was seen by tens of millions of netizens in the live broadcast room. The barrage was full of. Even the directors were confused when they saw this scene. What's going on? Zhong, Chung asked. The staff shook their heads, saying that they couldn't understand why the brother and sister were slapping each other in the morning and hugging each other and crying in the afternoon. Chun Group. Chun Wanting walked into David's office. She saw him looking at his tablet computer with a frown on his face, so she asked, Dad, what's wrong with you? David, Chun Wanting has returned to work at the group. David looked up at Chun Wanting, exhaled helplessly, and turned the tablet computer around. See for yourself. Chun Wanting looked at Chun Yunyan in the screen, who was gently wiping Oscar's tears, and the corners of her mouth twitched. Doesn't the third sister hate Oscar the most? She told me last night that she would definitely take revenge on him during this show. It's only been one day. How come it turned out like this? David sighed deeply. What a sin. Such misfortune for our family. Chun Wanting thought for a moment and said, Dad, is there some misunderstanding here? Is third sister acting? Forget it. I don't want to care anymore. David waved his hand. Ning ning. Dad is old, and I don't want to care about you anymore. Was the one who brought Oscar back. The source of the mistake is me. I have no right to say anything to you. If you really just want Oscar as your brother, I don't care. It's up to you. Dad, what are you talking about? I don't care what others think. I will never recognize Oscar as my brother again in this life. Although she had reconciled with Oscar, Chun Yunyan still felt that they should talk it out, so she took Oscar out for a walk, neither of them bringing a photographer. The two chatted for more than half an hour, and in the middle they hugged each other and cried. Chun Yunyan's makeup was all smudged from crying. When she finally came back, she still hid behind Oscar and went upstairs to her room. After Oscar sent her back to her room, he went to Xianyu's room. What's the matter? Xianyu asked with a smile. Thank you for your help, Master. Chun Yunyan and I have completely reconciled. Oscar smiled proudly. After this incident, I think Chun Yunyan will definitely treat me better than before because of this misunderstanding of me. No need to thank me. Xianyu patted Oscar's shoulder. Although I was helping you this time, I also got some benefits. Your third sister is really good. If it weren't for you knowing her so well, I wouldn't have succeeded so easily. These are what I should do. After all, Master, you have helped me so much. Xianyu nodded. You are very sensible. That's why I am willing to help you. Thank you for the compliment, Master. Master, what about William? Don't worry, I will do it tonight. Oscar smiled, with a hint of viciousness in his eyes. The sun is setting. When William came back from outside, he saw Oscar and Chun Yunyan sitting in the yard, talking and laughing while watching the sunset, with his brows slightly raised. What's going on? These two people have reconciled? At this time, Chun Yunyan also saw William, and her face instantly turned dark. William didn't bother to care what she was doing and went straight into the house. Unexpectedly, Chun Yunyan also followed him in. As soon as she entered the room, she turned off all the filming equipment, even the microphone hanging on William, which she pulled off and turned off. Only then did William see that there was a faint layer of black air covering Chun Yunyan's brow. He instantly understood what happened to Chun Yunyan. William, I'm telling you, I already know all the things you did behind my back. I'm warning you. If you dare to do that to me again, I will never let you go. Oh, really? William smiled faintly. Then tell me, what did I do? William angrily. I'm your biological sister, and you actually want to steal my luck. You are so heartless. Steal your luck? William tilted his head and smiled. Did Xianyu tell you that? Chun Yunyan was stunned, not understanding how William could guess that it was Xianyu so quickly, but she had no intention of involving Xianyu. After all, this is done to protect her, so she also has the responsibility to protect him. Don't talk to me about other people. William, I came to you today to warn you. Since you don't admit that you are a member of the Chun family, then stay away from me and my family. Don't say you hate us while stealing our fortunes. Chun Yunyun became angrier and angrier as she spoke, staring at William with eyes that seemed like they were about to spit fire. William smiled sarcastically. Chun Yunyun, considering that there is a blood relationship between you and me, I advise you to stay away from Shinu. Otherwise, you will die without knowing how. Stop cursing me here. Don't think I don't know. You're just worried that I'll get too close to Shinu, and the luck you stole from me will disappear. Then you won't be able to live a superior life, and you'll become a pathetic country bumpkin again. I won't let you get your wish. After saying that, Chun Yunyun turned and left. William looked at her back and stood there for a long time. Then he shook his head and smiled helplessly. I don't know if the acquisition process of the mental hospital has been completed. Chapter 223 Chun Lang is here. Sister Yunyun, your family's phone number? The assistant put the phone into Chun Yunyun's hands, panting. The program team took away the guests' mobile phones, but if there is an emergency, their assistants or staff will still help convey the message. My family. Chun Yunyun glanced at the caller ID on the screen, then turned off the radio and went to the bathroom to make the call. Seventh sister? What's the matter that made you call me so urgently? Chun Yunyun, what do you mean? Fiona's angry voice came from the other end of the phone. You clearly told me that you were going to record the show this time to take revenge on Oscar and make it up to your brother William. Why did you make peace with that bitch Oscar again? Also, I just saw from the live broadcast that you went to find brother William angrily and came out angrily. Did you scold him again? You better explain the current situation to me. Chun Yunyun was still angry about William stealing her luck, and when she heard Fiona's questioning tone, her anger grew even greater. Fiona, I'm your third sister. Watch your tone when you talk to me. Fiona on the other end of the phone fell silent after hearing this, and then for some reason, she suddenly broke down, crying loudly, and said hysterically, So all this is true, right? You really have returned to the way you were before. Third sister, why did you want to reconcile with Oscar? Why did you betray me too? You know exactly how bad Oscar's character is. Don't you hate him as much as I do? Didn't he almost kill you? Why did you forgive him? Why? Third sister, I really don't understand. What did Oscar do to make you forget your guilt towards your brother William and treat him the same as before? When Chun Yunyun heard Fiona's crying, her heart softened and she sighed deeply. Seventh sister, William is not as innocent as you think. Although we treated him badly in the past, it is not all our fault. Think about it. We have begged him so many times, you even knelt down for him. But does he have any intention of forgiving us? He didn't. You still have a long life ahead of you. You can't live your whole life carrying such a heavy guilt. It's not your fault for what happened in the past. William is not worthy of us taking him to heart. He has stolen my luck, destroyed my most cherished acting career, and also destroyed our once harmonious and happy family. We no longer owe him anything. Now he owes us. In fact, these words had been lingering in Chun Yunyun's mind since she was not with Shinu. Now when she said this to Fiona, it was more like she was persuading herself than the latter. Fiona was completely stunned after hearing these words. No, third sister, what are you talking about? How did brother William steal your luck? The entrance of Guiao village. A taxi drove over, and Dora immediately got out of a black business car nearby and went to greet it. After seeing Chun Lang get off the bus, she complained, Why are you so slow? Annie, hello? I'm Ying's boyfriend. Du Xiangfei got out from the other side of the taxi. Dora glanced at Du Xiangfei and then nodded perfunctorily. Now is not the time to talk about this. Let's go first. She took Chun Lang's hand and walked towards the village. Did you watch the live broadcast just now? There was a flash of anger in Du Xiangfei's eyes, but he didn't say anything. He just followed the mother and daughter in silence. How can I have time to watch the live broadcast? The company is being turned upside down by that little bastard William. Chun Lang suddenly thought of something, paused, and asked, What's wrong? Did that little bastard say something in the live broadcast again? Has reconciled with Oscar for some reason, and it seems that she is now in conflict with William again. Chun Lang pondered for a moment, then sneered. What else could it be? He must have seen the true face of that little bastard. I think so. What are you going to do now? Go straight to that little bastard? How can I go to him directly? He's live streaming right now. What if he says something and causes a bigger incident? Wouldn't that be a loss? Dora thought about it and nodded. That's right. That little beast is very vicious. He schemed against me before. Your uncles must hate me now. Inging, you can't just ignore Mom. You have to help me settle this matter. Oh, Mom. Chun Lang's face turned completely dark. I'm in trouble now, so please don't bother me with your problems. How can you talk like that? How can I say that I'm annoying you? You're my daughter, and I've been tricked. Don't you even want to help me out? Chun Lang's mind was in a mess right now, and she really didn't have the energy to argue with her, so she had to agree perfunctorily. The three of them soon arrived at the tent set up by the director team in the village. When Chun Lang saw Zhong Chung, she first greeted him politely, and then asked him to help call William over. When Zhong Chung heard this, he immediately became impatient. No, what do you Chun family members want to do? We are still recording the show here. If I call William over, how can we record the camera over there? When Chun Lang saw Zhong Cheng's attitude, she was also angry, but she still didn't dare to argue with the director. After all, she knew that the people behind this program were the Zhou family, and they had the capital not to give him face, so they could only ask him for help in a nice way. Zhong Cheng pondered for a moment, then came up with an idea. How about this? I won't make it difficult for you. We're still recording right now, so I definitely can't call the guests away. When they're resting tonight, I'll have the staff call William. If he's willing to see you, then you can make an appointment with him yourself. When do they take a break? Chun Lang asked. It's probably around 2 or 3 in the morning. They have to go explore the back mountains at night. 2 or 3? Chun Lang's heart sank. For her company now, time is money. Solving the problem later might result in huge losses. She simply couldn't wait. Can it be done sooner? I really have something urgent to tell my brother. If this problem is not solved, the game that our entire company has worked so hard to make may be ruined. Director Zhong, you're also a creator. If a variety show you worked so hard on cannot be broadcast in the end, you must feel very uncomfortable, right? Zhong Chung sighed helplessly. How about this? You guys just go over as a guest to visit the set? They're having dinner right now. But first of all, we have to make it clear that if you do this, you must sign a formal contract, and it must not affect our normal program shooting. Chapter 224, I will crush your pride and dreams with my own hands. Chun Lang knew that Zhong Chung wanted to use her current conflict with William to stir up publicity, and the last thing she wanted people to see was her and William together. After all, William had just publicly accused her of plagiarism that morning and revealed that the flying game was hers. If she was photographed coming to see William, it would directly confirm the matter. This would only make the situation worse for her and flying game. In the end, after negotiations, she and Zhong Chung each compromised. William without affecting the filming, but if she is accidentally photographed, she will not hold the program crew accountable, and her personal safety here has nothing to do with the program crew. A moment later, Du Xiangfei, wearing a mask, appeared in the village under the instructions of Chun Lang. He randomly found a staff member, gave him 2,000 yuan, and asked him to go and ask Oscar out first. William a Du Xiangfei orchestrated. William was stunned. Friend? What's his name? He said his name was Zhao Yongyan. Zhao Yongyan. William smiled. Okay, I understand. You go back first. I'll be there soon. After a while, he arrived at the location the staff said. William, Du Xiangfei, wearing a mask, walked out. After William saw who was coming, the corners of his lips curled up slightly. Du Xiangfei, it turns out to be you. Du Xiangfei glanced at the microphone on his chest and said nothing. Are you afraid of this? William smiled faintly, took off the microphone, and turned it off in front of him. Du Xiangfei finally breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, call Chun Lang over. Don't waste time. William said lightly. How do you know I'm here? Chun Lang turned off the live broadcast room and walked out from the corner. William glanced at Du Xiangfei, his eyes full of mockery. Can you trust your boyfriend with such a big matter? William, what do you mean? Du Xiangfei was instantly angry. Du Xiangfei? Chun Lang said in a low voice. You go first and do what you should do. Du Xiangfei was almost unable to hold back his anger, but he didn't dare to vent it. He could only walk away for a distance, then quickly opened the live broadcast room of the program and kept monitoring whether William S. situation appeared in the room. This was the job that Chun Lang assigned to him. Is any in-game yours? Chun Lang asked. Right. The game developed by William on the way here. No matter how reluctant she was, she had to admit that the games William made were much better than hers. Thinking back to the many times she had asked Oscar to give her some advice on her game, but he had always refused, what else did she not understand? I'm afraid all those things from 2 years ago were made by William. So, the game she had spent so much effort on now depended on William's words to survive or die. And William's attitude towards them was already bad, so she certainly wouldn't be stupid enough to confront him head-on. Right now, her only solution is to soften her attitude and impress William with her family affection. She took a deep breath and her tone softened. Jiang, brother William. Stop, don't call me brother. It's disgusting to me. Chun Lang's expression froze, and then she smiled bitterly. William, those things were given to me by Oscar. I really didn't know you made them. No, you know, William said calmly. Chun Lang was stunned. You've forgotten it a long time ago, right? William continued. When your last company's first game was in internal testing, I wrote you dozens of pages of game experience and improvement directions. What did you do at that time? When Chun Lang heard this, her thoughts were drawn back to a night 2.5 years ago, and her heart suddenly sank. That day, she adopted Oscar's suggestions and revised the game again, which received unanimous praise when it was officially released. To thank Oscar, she took him out for a whole afternoon of shopping and spent more than 1 million on him. When she returned home for dinner, she praised Oscar as a gaming genius in front of the whole family. Unexpectedly, after knowing the whole story, William said angrily that these things were obviously made by him with great effort. Oscar was clearly just helping him send the revision suggestions to her company. It was Oscar who was lying. Oscar immediately felt very aggrieved, and, citing his status as an adopted son, he proposed to leave home. At that time, she already hated William because she felt sorry for Oscar, so she felt that William was deliberately trying to steal the credit from Oscar, and in anger, she poured the bowl of hot soup in front of her on William. William screamed in pain, which made her even more upset, so she asked Randy to pull him out. Thinking of this, she felt a chill in her heart. Will William forgive her for what she did to him? I really didn't know that it was you who did it. I was also deceived by Oscar. Chun Lang looked at William with regret. Can you forgive me for once? I will make it up to you, William. Really, I will definitely make it up to you. Didn't you envy us the most for being nice to Oscar? I have seen through Oscar's true hypocrisy now. You are my only brother from now on. I will definitely treat you better than I treated Oscar before. As she spoke, Chun Lang took a step forward and wanted to hold William's hand. William took a step back, his expression full of disgust. You want a chance? Chun Lang nodded vigorously. William smiled coldly. Then tell me, who can give the old me a chance? Do you know how those things you received got into Oscar's hands? Oscar stole it from me. I knew it from the beginning, but I don't care, because those things were all written by me word by word and drawn by picture for you in countless nights. At that time, I only wanted to help you. I just hoped that one day, you would be able to see that you still have a brother, a biological brother, who is better than your non-blood-related brother and more sincere to you. I always feel that one day, you will see my efforts, and then you will look back at me, just one glance. It doesn't matter if you don't have it. You are doing what you like most and fulfilling your dream. One day in the future, maybe there will be a brick and tile under your success that I have worked hard to build for you. That's fine, as long as I am still your brother. But what? What did you do? You abused me, beat me, and even ordered your boyfriend to beat me until I vomited blood. And all this was just because I saw him wrapped in a bath towel with another woman, and I didn't want you to be deceived by him. Chun Lang, tell me, have you ever given me a chance in the past few years? Since you haven't had even one chance, how dare you ask me for another chance now? Upon hearing this, Chun Lang was already in tears, and she felt like she was about to fall. She really been that bad to William? I am sorry. William, I'm so sorry. William looked at her with disdain. Miss Chun, I'm sorry. I don't want your sorry, it's too cheap. You still remember, right? I told you that the Chun family will have retribution, and your retribution will begin with the luing game. The flying game has just reached its climax. There will be many more exciting scenes waiting for you later. Don't you claim to be a gaming genius? Aren't you determined to make a phenomenal game? But I'm telling you now, as long as I, William, am here, you can forget about making a name for yourself in the gaming industry. I'll show you that everything you're looking forward to is just a dream. I will crush your pride and dreams again and again with my own hands, until you can no longer stand up, until you completely collapse.